always have a way of throwing their body into things and there's no repercussions. Like, have you seen those? Like,
sounds like Eric there for a second. Dogs have a way.
Those like fail videos where dogs just like crash into kids.
Why did you subscribe to fail videos, the fail army on our?
Because every
YouTube
Friday,
channel?
sometimes like multiple times a week, you get a quality fail video. I love them. Guilty pleasure.
I never would have subscribed to that. And every now and then when I check our YouTube channel,
You have fun with it.
I go and I look at it and check it out.
I was gonna say sometimes I've gone to our subscribed list and
Almost to 600.
and you've already watched the fail video.
How do you feel about that when you're like, I didn't watch this?
Sometimes it happens with things that.
I'm gonna shut the door because the dog is being.
What is he
wacko.
doing? It's like that's a weird noise. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Where like dogs will just run into things, and they run with their face forward. Like humans, I mean, their face is the front
how
of
it
their.
goes.
Yeah,
They run backwards.
no. What I'm saying is, if they crash into something,
Oh yeah.
it has to be face first. If we hit something can hit us, and like if we're running, we can get hit in the shoulder or the chest or something. But their face is the front of their body, so if they hit anything, it destroys their brain. But they never have to lay down and just sit there for a minute. It's so weird. They always just get right back up and act like they didn't just get destroyed in the face.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about it later, but I was watching Defenders. And I noticed somebody got hit and knocked down, and they didn't just pop
Got
right
up again?
No, they didn't just pop right
You're
back
never
up.
gonna
And
keep me down.
And I was like, okay. So that's how this goes, I guess? No, you're right. Dolly does this thing where she...
Those are superheroes. We're talking about dogs.
Dolly does this thing where she'll run at you as fast as she can, and she'll, like, dive.
Yeah.
Like she's diving into a swimming pool, but she dives into your crotch.
I love the videos when, like, there are kids tubing downhill in the snow and they like destroy a dog, or like a dog will like air tackle someone.
Yeah.
Dogs always go nuts when humans fall. Have you ever noticed that?
No.
Anytime a human like falls down or something, a dog will like just go crazy and start running up on them.
You've broken the plane.
Maybe I guess
you know about the plane, right?
maybe they're doing it to like when you're on their level.
Yeah. So there's this plane about at your knees. Like sometimes people just come over to my house and they'll sit down on the floor and the dogs go nuts, and I feel no remorse for them at all because they've broken the plane.
It's
They've
like
gone in their world.
Whenever you want a dog to come to you, like if they're being disobedient, you're like, come here, and they're just looking at you.
Yeah.
The best way to get them to come here is to crouch down and like clap or something.
Oh yeah. I don't know if anyone's ever owned a dog before.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
So anyway, yeah, dogs always. I guess they're doing that because they're running to their human to see if they're okay. That's got to be the reason why.
Why is your energy so low? Is it because we're doing this at 10:30
I
at night?
literally started the conversation and I've been talking about craziness with dogs and fail army.
Yeah, but before this, you got an email. Is it because
But it doesn't matter what happened before this.
This isn't a brand new.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't. No one knows.
Why do you put the ketchup up?
Why do I need to put the ketchup
I
up?
don't know.
I'll do it later.
There's never ketchup in this office.
There doesn't need to be a special trip to put the ketchup. Is it because you're weird about ketchup being out?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I don't care about it being out. It's just strange that it's in this room right now.
I've been much more relaxed with my ketchup. So I used to take it out and it would be in my room.
What a strange statement.
Well, I prefer my ketchup to be cold. I refrigerate all of my ketchup. But
There's some things that are just way better cold.
Yes, and that's one of them.
Way better.
Like Sturgill, he keeps his ketchup.
Who's that? Is that the one with the baby?
My good friend Sturgill, he keeps his ketchup in the cupboard, and I don't get it at all. I think it might be something his wife makes him do. Anyway, but hold on. I'm done with ketchup already.
LaCroix is better cold.
Yeah, 100%. So I have a group text, a Dan Le Batard group text between me.
Sounds awful.
Me, Sturgill, and my friend Marco. Who's Marco? You never met him. Don't worry about it. We don't have to have a conversation about it. So,
what about Phil?
Le Batard was... No, he's not, because he's a moron. Le Batard was off this week. So, the Le Batard group text kind of turned into the Sight and Sound group text.
Ugh.
So not only
You mean a Facebook group?
did Sturgill talk to me about some Sight and Sound stuff, but Marco is a brand new listener to Sight and Sound. So right now, Marco and Sturgill are listening to this episode as fresh Sight and Sound listeners.
Wait, I'm confused. So it turned.
I don't know why.
Did it turn into Sight and Sound group text talking about Sight and Sound, or did it turn into a Sight and Sound group text talking about content that we talk about on Sight and Sound?
Content.
The
podcast.
They were talking about our podcast.
Yes. Things that we talked about, the toilet,
Strange.
sitting sideways on the toilet seat, something that you did that Sturgill's like, I do that same thing. But I don't know, something like
Oh, yeah? Does he relate to me?
Yes, I guess somehow. I don't know.
I bought a couch last week. How do you feel about that?
What do I care?
Well,
That's a hell of an impulse buy. You think
it was hey, look at me. Huge impulse buy. One of the two things that I bought, a chair, a very large chair.
it's a very nice chair.
It's I've said it a few times, but the chair, it's essentially a giant chair. It looks like the chair from Blue's Clues that Steve sat in.
Mm-hmm.
That one chair costs more than my entire living room furniture set that I bought when I got a divorce.
So why did you do this? Because it's not like your furniture that you have is in poor condition. Right now you have a couch and a love seat.
Yes.
And
do you know why I bought that particular couch and love seat?
Because your wife made you?
No,
or
I bought those as a result of getting a divorce. We used to have friends that are no longer friends, and they had this couch and they had dogs, and I liked that with their couch, when the dogs got on it, they could just take their hand and push hair off of it. And that's essentially what you can do with that couch. So I bought that same couch. So
why do you have a blanket over the love seat to protect it from dog hair?
So that just because it's not like magic, you can't just if the dogs are legitimately laying on the couch all the time, you're still going to have to vacuum it.
If you and Kayla are hogging the couch and I have to sit on the love seat, I have to sit on the blanket that houses the dog hair as opposed to the couch that I can wipe the dog hair off.
Right, because the blanket acts as a barrier between the dogs and
so
the
you're
couch.
Telling me to lift the blanket?
You discovered that one day, and the day that you found that out, you might have been inebriated. But
I didn't think I was allowed to sit on the couch for forever. I thought I always had to go to the love seat.
Yeah. Well, you have to ask the dog's permission because it's their couch.
Now I don't have to ask Indy anything. Let's be real.
No, you do.
But none of this is a problem anyway, because I basically decided that I'm no longer going to be watching TV with Kayla.
That's fair. Regardless, hey, look.
Or movies.
Look, dogs not allowed on these couches. Okay, this was a significant purchase. This was.
Are you gonna keep this love seat? Because you could just put that love seat over by the window.
So, in order to finance this new purchase, I'm going to have to sell these. I might not sell the love seat. I might put the love seat in here. There's a potential for that. Obviously, I'd vacuum it.
It'd be like the superhero show on IGN. You and I could sit on the couch and we could film a show.
There you go. So it was a very huge impulse buy. We were leaving this outdoor mall, and all of a sudden, Kayla said, "Hey, do you want to go in here?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. I like to look at furniture. I like to look at things like that." Walked in there, walked out with opened a credit card at this furniture store, helped my credit score, and bought some very expensive furniture.
So to our Sight and Sound and After Smo fans out there who are desperately waiting for us to go video, you now know where our money's going.
Oh, 100%.
To Jay's pointless couch and love seat, or big chair, excuse me. Am I allowed to sit in the big chair? Or is that going to be your seat?
Yeah, it's also folds out into a bed, so you can sleep there too.
Oh, no. I'm very particular about
You're
where
ridiculous
I sleep.
about that.
I think, what kind of conversation is this? Are you like desperately needing me to stay over?
No, but that's why
that's weird. That might be equally as weird as me just wanting to stay.
The difference between bed.
Please stay here, Snelling.
The difference between a bed and no bed in the chair, $500. A $500 difference between a bed in the chair and no bed in the chair.
Wow.
Yeah. We're dealing with some high-end furniture, I guess. I'm going to be 30. That's what happens when you turn 30.
I don't know if I care for this.
After that, you know what I did?
Mm.
Went and shopped at Whole Foods. I might have done the
Shake Shack. You go to Shake Shack?
I did. I ate at Shake Shack first. I might have done the 3 most white things I could have possibly done in the span of one Sunday afternoon.
Speaking of Whole Foods.
Yeah. Just wonderful. It's expensive.
I matched with this girl on Tinder.
Did you? A new one?
No.
Was she a pescatarian?
I'm about to tell you the Whole Foods story.
Okay.
You already know this story. But I wanted to tell
I do?
Sturgill and Marco. Yes, Jay. God damn.
You know, I went on a first date at a Whole Foods one time to see the girl who I went on a date with, to see her ex-husband. He worked there. Putting out produce. Go ahead.
So I matched with this girl, and I had asked her what some of her least favorite pickup lines were from guys that she's matched with. And she gave me a few, and I don't remember them. But I said, I've got something my friend told me. I want to try it out on you. She said, okay. And so I put in quotes.
Story. Sorry.
Do you want me to get you anything from Whole Foods?
Right.
Unquote. And she didn't realize that right there was me quoting. She thought that I just said that. So she answered.
She's clearly never seen the show before.
Master of None, season 2. So she answered legitimately and said, "Oh, I really do like to shop there, but no, not right now." And
what if she said something like toilet paper, because I'm just having some terrible diarrhea tonight?
Hey, I would have empathized.
Yeah.
So she responded legitimately, and I just said LOL or whatever I did, and she didn't know why I responded that way. So I was like, no, that was the line. And
what's going on? What's going on right now?
Where did that come from?
It came from my speakers. No one can probably hear about it. Hear it.
It's like my phone.
My computer is connected to my funny bone and my speakers, and I just got a notification. Go ahead.
Why do you have to get up? Oh, I can do it.
Okay. There you go. Oh.
So
what's happening right now? What a terrible episode.
So then she unmatched me for no reason.
Yeah, what's that about?
I don't know. We were just talking.
Hey, fuck her.
That happens. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm not a woman.
One day
that's confirmed, but I don't understand just like no longer.
Yeah.
Let me paint a picture.
Not even that. It wasn't just no longer responding. It's the fact that she went out of her way to unmatch me after she liked me and we had a fine conversation.
Let me paint a picture.
It's so weird.
Okay. I just put out an album with my musical project Separator. It was called Existence. It was all wrapped around this idea of if somebody, let's say you had a friend 10 years ago and you just never talked to them, never see them ever again. They might as well no longer exist in reality, right? How the fuck would you know? Okay. That person, essentially, you came into her reality, into her existence.
Yeah.
Within the span of 2 weeks, she erased you. She could tell you, or I'm sorry, she could tell stories about you and legitimately just be making you up to people. That's how real you were to this person.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Why not just be friends?
I don't know. It's just so weird. It's so weird.
What a strange thing.
That's why I hate that stuff. Like, I think I want to I'll get on it for and some people can just get on there and have fun, and that's fine. Sometimes when I'm bored, I'll, swipe but I mean, it just makes no sense when you're like, okay, this might actually be someone that I can talk to.
Right.
And then it just goes away for no reason.
I will say
it makes no sense.
I will say now I don't think you did anything wrong, but I did have one Tinder date experience that the date went great. It went fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything was good, but I could no longer talk to this person after the first date. She liked me. Went well. 2 reasons we couldn't talk anymore. One, She ordered the food. It was the first time I ever ate raw barracuda. Not a fan. Problem number 2. She talked way too much.
Yeah.
Just way, way, way too much. Like, I can talk. Like, I have a podcast. She was so intense.
How you doing?
So aggressive.
Was that your opening line? I have a podcast.
No, but I'll tell you what I had to do. I'm usually not like this, but I was like, she was telling me all these stories about these guys, these loser guys that she had gone on dates with. Oh, they're losers. She was like an entrepreneur type of person and all this stuff. And I found myself having to like read my resume, like explain to her why I was not this person that she had been out with so many times. And I felt like a tool. Like, I'm not that guy that's like, oh, not name drop, but to that level, like, oh, I do this, I do that. And I hated it. God, I hated it.
Yeah.
It was annoying. Still follow her on Snapchat though.
The most accomplished relationship that I ever had through Tinder was a girl that I legitimately liked. We talked 24/7. We spent time together. She was very particular about not wanting to spend time together while she was at school. Like,
okay, I like that.
Like, she would come home. She would go home.
That sounds like a Ryan Snelling
and then
thing.
There were a couple of times. Actually,
it's a very Ryan Snelling move.
I was all about, hey, let's spend more time. I'll come up because she was in Richmond at school and I wasn't. So I was all about like, hey, let's hang out here. But she was like, I just have a lot of stuff going on. Why don't we just do whatever? And so I was like, okay, whatever. But there would be times when like, why are you keep making that fucking face?
It's bizarre to me. It's crazy because it's a Ryan Snelling move.
Oh.
What's your deal? Why are you so neurotic right now?
Because I was explaining something else, and then you do that thing where you look away and smirk. And you've done it twice in the past.
It's just
like
such a
2
thing,
seconds.
like where Ryan Snelling would be like, "We can date, but we're gonna take some time apart while Game of Thrones is going on right now."
That actually happened.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why it's hilarious.
And not only did I take some time away to watch Game of Thrones, I never went back to seeing that girl. It was just, I'm watching Game of Thrones. I finished Game of Thrones and on to the next series. Not on to the next
female. Yeah. Well, you're trying to go on to the next female, but
it's fine. It's because then I realize, like, I get shit like that and I realize I don't want to do this. It's like,
yeah,
I want to watch Thrones tomorrow night. We're recording this. Anyway, I haven't finished like half of the stories that I brought up.
I know. You have 15 minutes. Less than that.
Do you remember
12 minutes.
Do you remember Rick D's in the morning?
Weekly Top 40, of course.
So I was at work right before.
I have no idea what that guy looks like.
I don't either. He's dead, God rest his soul.
Is he really?
No, wait, that's Casey Kasem.
He might be dead. Rick D's, yeah.
I'm going to look it up real quick.
He has a chain of restaurants, right? Captain D's?
So, Rick D's, American entrepreneur.
Oh, that's his first. That's the first title. It's not American
radio
DJ.
Personality. Maybe he's not dead.
How old is he? I don't even have any idea how old he'd be. But he was putting out shit back when I was like a kid.
Well, now I'm insanely confused as to what. He's 67. He was born in 1950. So now I'm really confused. But so anyway, the past few hours while I was at work, the radio station that we listened to played Rick D's Top 40, but it took place in 1997.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Like, not just the songs
like
that they played.
Smash Mouth.
Yes,
yeah.
but not just
Goo Goo Dolls.
They didn't just play those songs. It was Rick D's show at that time.
Yeah.
So it was like a rerun, essentially. Yeah. And so I heard like
talking about like Bill Clinton, stuff like that.
Well, no, not so much. But it was like they played the string of songs that came out back then, and they were all a lot of 98 Degrees. I heard Twice Tonight, Smash Mouth, like you said, Tonic. Remember that band? Just a lot of
course.
It was really, really fun. But I got to
Third
hear
Eye Blind.
he gave away some concert tickets to some band I hadn't even heard of, and like David Letterman came on for a second and talked to her, and then Drew Lachey from 98 Degrees had a quick interview, and they were talking about the fact that he was an EMT, and talked about Nick for a second.
The lesser Lachey.
Yeah, and so it was just really
never go lesser Lachey.
It was just really, really fun to listen to. It was really cool. Speaking of the Lachays, I love that Newlyweds show with Nick and Jessica.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, that was a great show. I had it on DVD.
He was trying to legalize marijuana in Ohio. Did you know that?
Yeah, he's from Cincinnati.
I don't like
Cincinnati Bearcat.
Don't like him. They throw things at me there when I walk down the street.
So anyway, while I was at work, I'm sitting there doing some tasks, and I look over and there's this kid. He turns the corner. He's got a broken arm, or his arm's at least in a sling. I don't know what's going on there, and we have like these big metal carts that house all the boxes. So it's a big, for freight. And he plays.
Do people know where you work?
I'm not telling anybody where I work.
Another retail place.
Yeah, but I'm not telling anybody.
Okay.
I don't want them to talk to me about it. Talk to me about Sight and Sound. So the kid's playing with the cart, and I'm just watching him. And then he makes eye contact with me, and I have my phone in my hand. He walks right up to me, grabs my phone, starts to take it, and goes, ha ha.
A child?
Yes. He was maybe 9. He walks up to me, starts to take my phone out of my hand. He has full grasp of my phone. Starts to take it and goes, ha ha.
What a terrible.
Let's go, and walks away. And I'm like, so many scenarios ran through my head. What if he actually took it? What would I be able to do?
What's the response? Hey, boy.
I don't know. But
man.
As soon as I lost sight of him and he went down another aisle, I just heard things crashing onto the floor, and I could hear him bouncing a ball.
But he didn't have your phone?
No.
Okay. What'd you do? Go full
yes,
iron fist on it?
And then he just said, ha ha, and walked away. And then he turned the corner and things came crashing down and he was throwing shit.
Did you go full Luke Cage on that phone?
It was just think of how bonkers that was. And think of what would you have been able to do had he taken your phone and run off with it while you're at your workplace.
I'm just picturing you having to chase him down and tackle like a little child.
I don't know. I would look like an idiot chasing a strange kid around for my phone.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful he let go.
I'm picturing you with a Indiana Jones whip, and you whoosh, get it around his ankle. And
so strange.
Did you hear my whip sound? Whoosh.
Yeah.
What's your whip sound? What does it sound like?
Whoosh.
Whoosh. I like that. It's a nice one.
We used to make that sound whenever our male friends were whipped by their girlfriends.
Oh, yeah? I've been there. No longer. That's what happens when you go through a few Tinder dates. Anyways, you had another story about Eric. You want to get into your Eric
I
story?
was going to go into my Rick D's the radio discussion.
You got 7 minutes.
Are we trying to hit our 30 every week now?
Of course. People like that 30
Is this
minutes
living
last week.
Sturgill and Marco love that 30
Of course
minutes.
they do. In fact, my friend who only listens to our Game of Thrones podcast, my friend from work, said, no offense to you guys, but if I watched more stuff, I would listen. And I was like, you don't have to do that. We have an after party thing. You can listen to that or just listen to the first 30 minutes every week.
Yeah. So anyway, I remember listening to this old music. I remembered
Rick D's.
I've always had this theory that there are some songs that exist that have been legit radio hits for 20 years. Like that random, that one Mark Anthony song. And I can't think of what the song is called right now. But it has legitimately been on the radio.
Like Anthony sucks.
Since I've had conscious life.
He's like the goblin version of Enrique Iglesias. Why is he like that? He's not bodied up at all. Do you remember when he was married to
J-Lo?
Jennifer Lopez. Holy shit. Now Drake is writing songs about her. What the hell? Remember J-Lo is married to Ben Affleck? Or not married, but dating Ben Affleck and P. Diddy?
I need to know. Tell me, baby girl, because I need to. That has legitimately been a radio hit for as long as I can remember. Anyway, I was thinking of another song that was like that. Drops of Jupiter by Train.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
a-
What's wrong with his face? He's got something wrong with his face.
A couple of years ago, that song got brought up, and I think I actually was just doing this. I was talking about the longest radio hits, and I mentioned to Eric, I was like, yeah, Drops of Jupiter by Train. It'll play anytime you walk into a JCPenney. And, oh no, it wasn't Drops of Jupiter. It was Meet Virginia.
Meet Virginia.
Yeah. I brought up Meet Virginia, and I was saying that whole thing to Eric, and Eric goes, I don't know what that is.
Are you serious?
I said, Eric, Meet Virginia by Train.
That might be the quintessential Eric song.
And I sang it to him, and I think we were actually listening to it. I think that's what brought it up.
Right.
And at the time, and this was like 2 years ago, he told me, he's like, I have never, ever heard this in my life.
Yeah.
Doesn't that blow your mind?
Not really, just because.
Not really?
That's
Meet Virginia?
That song maybe to a certain extent, but we talked about this at one point, that there's just certain bands, like even me as a music guy, you know how much I pay attention to music. Like I just have no context
Not much.
of. I just don't have any context of some artists. And I think we talked about it when we were talking about the XX a little bit, even though that's obviously much different than Train.
Jay.
But look, here's the thing about music like that. I actually have an entire music genre that I call dentist office music. It's essentially anything Phil Collins or Genesis, like the adult contemporary like music genre. And I love it. I love me some Phil Collins. I love hearing me some like Eddie Vedder solo songs or something like that.
Think about Eric though, is
Hootie and the Blowfish.
He loves bands like Goo Goo Dolls.
Oh, so do I.
So I figured
Third Eye
that
Blind.
I figured that he would have known that. Anyway, that just always blew my mind there. I remember Eric just being like, well, I've never even heard that at all.
The Fray. Let me some of The Fray.
We have a friend, you don't know him, but in high school, for a couple of years, no, not Goodman. For a couple of years, I didn't play baseball, but I was in charge of creating the mix of walkout songs for all the baseball players. There's a couple funny stories behind this. There's this one kid named Nolan, and he wanted his walkout song to be I'm Me by Lil Wayne. And instead, I made it I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain.
Right. I've heard this story, yeah.
And he didn't know it. And so the very first time he hears that, and everyone hears it when he's walking out to bat, and he strikes out. And I like to attribute that to the song.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's hilarious. Thank you.
One Republic, another modern band that falls into that category.
I love One Republic.
I like One Republic too.
They're great.
There are some bands that you hear and you immediately attribute them to the adult contemporary radio rock, JCPenney's dentist office music. One Republic is one of those bands.
Yeah. But they're great.
Yeah, don't have a problem with them at all.
Anyway, my friend Hunter, his legitimate request for a walkout song was How to Save a Life by The Fray. And
you ever heard a Day to Remember's cover of it? It's a good song. It's a good cover.
Okay, you're skipping right past the ridiculousness of the story to talk about. I don't like covers.
You don't like covers at all?
They're annoying to me. Especially covers done by that genre of music.
I can believe that. Yeah. It becomes a thing.
Yes. And that's why
I don't appreciate it.
They just annoy me.
I like covers.
When Our Last Night does a cover, when A Day to Remember does a cover, when those types of bands do covers, I know exactly what it's going to be.
There are some covers that are legitimately
annoying.
better than the original songs.
I agree. For sure. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Hurt by Johnny Cash, better than the 9 Inch Nails version.
Oh, yeah.
Way better.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Sorry, my head was still in the...
Everlong by Evergreen Terrace, way better than Everlong by Foo Fighters.
That is not.
That's not true at all. That's hilarious, though. Yeah, look, man, I don't really know how to... I'll tell you this, a funny thing about sports and music. One of the most intense music debates I ever got into was literally walking out to go to the sideline of a football game, of a high school football game where I was starting. My friend at the time, Mike O'Brien, shout out Ross Cassidy, he knows who Mike is. We had this intense debate that Tool was the heaviest band alive. And I like Tool. I think Tool's great. I respect the hell out of them, but in no realm are they the heaviest band ever. In fact, I don't even think they're that heavy. Like, just not. In fact, I don't think Tool is a metal band. I just don't. They are not a metal band.
Not only is Tool just not heavy, there are multiple entire genres of music that are heavier than Tool.
Right.
So that is an insane argument.
Balance and Composure might be heavier than Tool.
Hey.
Nirvana might be heavier than Tool.
Valid.
Yeah, and calling them a metal band, they're just not. And we had this huge debate, and like I'm literally getting the play from my coach and having this conversation with him at the exact same time. My coach is like, "Put your helmet on," and I'm just give me a minute.
We should not this week, but maybe next week because football season is upon us. We should trade football stories.
Okay,
I've got some great ones. I'm sure you've got some great
definitely
ones.
Have great ones.
Last thing I want to talk about.
I stole my best friend's POD CD from him.
What does that have to do with football? We'll talk about it.
It happened in football. We were on the bus. I took it from him.
We'll
and he said, "Does anybody see my POD CD?" And I just slid it right into the booklet.
So my very first, I just joined the football team. The season opener. So basically my debut.
Right.
As a football player. I skipped the game.
That's great.
To go see Crossfade and Seether at the State Fair.
That's where Seether covered the Deftones song.
It is.
Yeah.
And Alice in Chains. So the last thing I want to talk about right now.
R.I.P. Lane Staley.
Right now, someone could be listening to this episode of Sight and Sound Weekly during the solar eclipse.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say during a football game.
And I want to know what the hell are you going to do for this eclipse? Because I work somewhere. I work somewhere that is supposed to sell these glasses. So every 15 minutes, I turn
right
a
next
corner.
to the fidget spinners?
Yes. Yes. Every 15 seconds, I turn a corner. Someone asks me about fidget spinners or about those stupid glasses, and everyone is sold out. I did not get mine in time because, honestly, I didn't even know what this thing was until about a week ago, only because you look on Facebook every 3 or 4 months and you see a post like, this month is the blood moon. August 21st, the moon will be as big as it's ever been and blood red. And then you look outside that night and you can't even see the moon because it's behind a cloud.
Okay.
There have been countless, I'm about done. There have been countless times where something has popped up and I've gotten nothing out of it via space. So I didn't realize how important this kind of actually is because it can be a danger, but I didn't prepare. And now I'm afraid I might just like sit it out in my room and not do anything at all. See if it's live streaming on Twitter. Your thoughts on this upcoming eclipse?
Someone at work was planning an eclipse event. Hey, I need every person that's listening to this podcast right now. When is the eclipse?
Monday.
Okay.
Monday, I think.
When this episode comes out, listen to me. If you have plans for this eclipse, you can no longer be my friend.
No, that's not fair. That's not
fair.
Hey,
I set my own rules. Listen, instead of watching this eclipse, one, and I'm looking at you, Ralph Lenardic, get on Tinder instead. Sign up for Tinder.
Well, he's not going to have the same view we do because it's in our path in Kentucky.
2, instead of watching the eclipse, do anything productive because it will be way more worth it. I promise you. This is nothing. Space is infinite. Things happen in space all the time. It doesn't matter. You know what you can do? You can watch it over and over and over again on fucking YouTube and probably get a better view of it.
It's not quite the same. I'm not having a party, and I would never go to a party. But some people might like to go hiking, experience it out on the gorge, take a look the gorge that we have here, and then go home. It doesn't have to be a whole big thing, but you also have to know, like, there are certain things you have to know. Like, there are people that went blind or have some kind of temporary blindness in their periphs, or from like 40 years ago, whenever the last one was. They
deserve it.
And so people can legitimately get that. So you're not supposed to look up at it or try to photograph it or anything like that.
Nature doesn't want you to do this.
You're also supposed to have your headlights on throughout the entire day because of how gloomy it'll be and things like that. There are precautions you have to take because it is a thing, no matter how you celebrate it or not. So,
what will my dogs be doing during the eclipse?
Probably banging.
They don't give a fuck.
They're probably banging.
That's all. Unless the only reason you have a pass for taking part in this, one, if you're a Wiccan, two, if you are under the influence of any sort of drug, by all means, just don't look too close.
I would not let your dogs out during the eclipse.
What if they got some crazy power? What if this is the beginning? Isn't this what happened in Heroes Season 1?
Yes, but I'm also just concerned about their vision. But anyway.
What about Indy's back? What's going to happen to his back? What if his hair grew back?
I saw a picture of a horse that had the problem that Indy has.
Oh, yeah?
Today.
Well, that's just from the saddle.
No, it was a larger area than that.
Okay.
Like went down half his belly.
All right, look, we're going to take a break because Kayla's going to be home at any minute now and the dogs are going to go crazy.
Never get a girlfriend.
We're going to stare into the sun and you're going to put my ketchup up. How about that? What an odd episode. All right, we'll be right back. It is hot outside. It's summertime. You're going to the beach. You're going to the lake. You're going on hikes. Whatever you're doing. Maybe it's too hot to go outside. I have no idea. But I'll tell you what. It's so hot that you've got those nasty, gross pit stains and all those old T-shirts. So we've got you covered. Go to sightsoundpod.com. Pick up your Sight and Sound gear. We've got a summer line coming out with some incredible designs. I am biased because I designed them. But that's okay. They do look good, I promise you. There's a lot of great stuff over there. We're always releasing new T-shirts. We have a new limited design that will only be available for the month of July, and we've got a new limited design coming every single month. But go to sightsoundpod.com and pick up your T-shirts. You're going to feel good about yourself because not only are you supporting the podcast, not only are you doing your part to help make the podcast better, you're going to look fantastic while supporting the show. Sightsoundpod.com. Pick up your T-shirts today.
Oh, you hit record.
Let's talk about a movie I don't care about.
Now, why would you do that? Your opinions on movies, they have been so fucking frustrating.
You have no idea what I think.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
As soon as it broke, you were like, oh, okay, when I texted it to you.
So just one statement in general that's just the extent of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I'm a complex individual.
This is probably a classic case of not knowing at all where this is going to go. Like 2 days ago, you were like, I don't give a shit about this. And today you're going to be like, I actually think it'll be a great opportunity for Lucasfilm because that's just how you are.
In fact, that's exactly my take. So am I not allowed to have my own personal opinion, but also see how it could be beneficial for other people?
No, you are.
Interesting to other people?
No, you are. It just, you wear me out because it goes back to never knowing how you feel about things.
Well, I think, here's the thing about that. I think that.
Hold on. Let's explain what we're talking about. So everyone knows Lucasfilm announced that an Obi-Wan movie is officially in the works. This has been something that fans have been waiting for. This is something that's been rumored, but now it is official that we are getting an Obi-Wan movie sooner or later. It's in development. They have a director already attached with Stephen Daldry, and it's going to be starring Ewan McGregor, of course. So this is happening. It's probably going to be the third anthology movie following Han Solo. Continue.
Yeah, all I was going to say is that this whole discussion about how I feel about things, blah, 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 I think sometimes people have a weird thing about distinguishing how they personally feel about something in regards to how other people feel about things. So, like, just as an example, I will listen to music, for instance, that I have no desire to listen to. I don't like it personally. It's not something that I would listen to on an everyday basis, but I can still acknowledge that, one, it is very well executed. There are things about it that I can see other people enjoying. So I review it from the perspective, from like a technical perspective, but I am never going to listen to it. Like, for instance, Beethoven or Mozart or Chopin. I would never listen to music like that, but it doesn't mean that it's not good. It doesn't mean that it's definitively something that other people shouldn't enjoy. It's just something that doesn't interest me personally. So I take that to the bank with movies and television shows all the time. Like Mad Men is a great example. Mad Men is a very well executed show. Technically, I'm sure it's great and all this stuff. But
I just don't need it.
I watched a half of a season of it, and I just don't care.
I don't
about
need it.
That's also how I felt. I mean, we'll talk about it eventually, but that's how I felt about a lot of those Marvel shows. At one point or another, you just have to ask yourself, like, do I really give a shit about this? And sometimes I just don't. So that's look, I will 100% go and see an Obi-Wan movie. 100%. Is it the movie that I want as a Star Wars fan? Not really, but that's fine. I'm sure other people are excited about it.
You know, people are excited about it.
Of course. But people are going to be excited.
Of course.
People are going to be excited about anything Star Wars related. I'm you know me. I don't like to live in the past.
We'll get there. But because this will turn into this will go from a singular conversation to a more broad conversation as it goes on. But so I think that there are maybe 0 cons to this story. There are 0
Agreed.
negatives to this.
Agreed.
Not only do I personally want to see this happen, it's going to now be officially the first anthology movie that involves a Jedi, which is,
right,
a staple of Star Wars. We had Rogue One, didn't have any Jedi. Han Solo's coming out. As far as I know, none of those people are Jedis. Lando isn't. Han isn't.
Right.
As far as I know, what's his name isn't. Woody Harrelson's character. So I love that we're going to get a Jedi anthology series.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people always like to discuss how do you make up for the prequels? People would love the idea. I don't think they think it's realistic, but people would love the idea of remaking the prequels, which is obviously something that they would never, ever do.
And what a broad stroke. Like, as if there's nothing redeemable about the prequels. Like, last time I checked, Ewan McGregor was pretty great as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought he was fucking fine. I thought
Ewan McGregor is 100% the best thing about the prequels.
Yeah.
So
can I get your take on one thing real quick with this whole story?
Yes.
I think, and this is just me from the outside looking in, obviously you have more insider knowledge because you're on the set all the time of these Star Wars movies.
Right.
You have Kathleen Kennedy's number. To me, I think Disney and Lucasfilm in general want a legitimate Oscar contender. I want a Star Wars movie to be a potential Oscar contender. Everything about this seems to me like they would want to push for something like that. A character-driven story, something that's obviously their director choice, being somebody who has been nominated for Oscars and whatnot. Your take on that?
That's not something I would ever describe.
Okay.
I think if the studio of Disney was to ever push for an Oscar, it would be something that was primarily animated, or
of course,
like a Saving Mr. Banks type movie or something, or maybe more of like a Mary Poppins. But I don't think anyone, when planning a Star Wars movie, is saying, how does this become an Oscar contender? I actually don't think that's.
You don't think that
part of it
they
at
would
all.
want to push for something like that, considering
No.
Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings obviously got that nod with Return of the King, and they would like to, not that they're really competing, and that's, I don't think anybody was ever thinking that, but I think that they would like to have something like that on their mantle with such a huge property like Star Wars.
I don't think they need that. I don't think
they need it either.
Like I think they know that they don't need it. I think it's mainly about pleasing the audiences first. I mean, that is the primary goal, I think, every time, is to make sure that it serves story and audience. And we'll talk more about that later. But no,
these discussions are taking place, though.
I don't think they make any decision for their Star Wars films based off of what can or cannot get them an Oscar nomination.
So you don't put any weight these discussions being had on like Jedi counts or anything, them talking about potential Oscar fodder regarding Star Wars.
I mean, I'm not saying that it can't get an Oscar nom for cinematography or for sound editing or anything like that. I mean, Star Wars does get nominated for sound editing and stuff, but I'm mainly
talking about Best Picture.
I'm talking about like Best Picture. Yeah, definitely. Or Best Acting. I don't think that'll ever come up. Best Acting. Not that they don't have great actors, but you know.
You're basically taking the stance that, which I essentially agree with, that's not a main focus for them. They're not setting out with those.
Technically, it'll happen just because I think they have such what word do I want? They have such high standards technically as well for sound and music and things like that. So
you
that's
think
just something that I think that's, I don't want to call it an accident, but that's something that's just that's the given, that they could be nominated for sound editing or things like that. But
that was my question, was that you think if Star Wars ever gets nominated at least for a Best Picture thing, that it would be something that they sort of stumbled upon. It would be by chance.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess my mind, when you asked me that question originally, my mind immediately goes to acting, direction, writing.
I don't give a fuck if a Star Wars movie is ever. I don't care at all.
No, they don't need.
I was just curious your take.
But anyway, so this is a way to right a wrong. As far as with the prequels, it's something that I'm extremely interested in. I want to see Star Wars, and they have been, especially since Celebration. They've been embracing the prequel era again. And to see this happen, I just think it's so exciting for so many different reasons. I can't help but want a Logan type Obi-Wan movie where it's about this nomad. Like I love the idea of that, especially with the director that they went after. It's a very interesting choice. I'm not familiar with any of his work, but I definitely am going to do some research here soon. He directed The Reader and what was that other movie that he directed? It's called The Hours or something.
Did you direct that Billy something movie?
Billy Elliot. Oh, I have seen Billy Elliot.
Dancing Kid.
Yeah, I saw Billy Elliot. So, very interesting choice there. And that doesn't bother me really. I mean,
is this going to be the first Star Wars musical?
I almost just have nothing to say about it, more so than it's just okay, great.
Yeah. I think more than anything, the thing that a lot of people are pointing out about this is that it has the potential to be some sort of psychological Star Wars movie, but just because we know that Obi-Wan in general, at least from what we know of him leading into episode 4, is just he's been on Tatooine, lost in the desert, all this stuff. I mean, a lot of what Obi-Wan's life has been covered in Clone Wars, as well as
and Rebels.
Yeah, taking place on Star Wars Rebels. Would love to see an on-screen real life adaptation of his engagements with one Darth Maul. I think that would be fantastic. In fact, if I'm a betting man, if I'm putting some stock into some stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Darth Maul in this movie.
I don't think we'll get him at all.
I think we would. I'm calling it right now. The Nostradamus is saying it. Darth Maul. Call up that Ray guy. What's his name?
No, Ray Park. They've already closed the book on that. There's no way that that's happening. But
it's going to happen. You heard it first.
I'm glad that they're doing it. I wish that this was the first anthology movie that they came out with, to be honest with you. I think, like I said, it serves the fans the most. on all levels. I'm also glad that they're doing it now before Ewan McGregor got too old. Honestly, because it would have started to get awkward the closer he got to the age of Alec Guinness. Because like right now, Mark Hamill is older than Alec Guinness was when he was Ben Kenobi in A New Hope. So I found that interesting. But yeah, I'm glad that we're doing it now where Ewan is still able to kind of do hopefully most of the work because, you know, obviously he handled so much choreography with the prequels. I mean, him and Hayden Christensen would fight out for hours working out with those things. So, but anyway, just overall, I'm so thrilled about it, and I cannot wait to see where they go with this. After this announcement, so many other things came out as far as what the other movies were going to be. So we've gotten basically all these old rumors floated back to the top again. So now people are talking about a standalone Yoda movie and a standalone Boba Fett movie. And there's also rumors for a Jabba the Hutt movie. So for the foreseeable future, we have 4 potential anthology movies already in the books. And I'm kind of annoyed by them.
I am too. That all just sounds awful. Like legitimately awful. In fact, made me feel bad because I love Yoda. I think he's just great. I don't want to see a Yoda movie. I just really don't. And I definitely don't want to see a Jabba the Hutt movie. And hey, I don't need to go into it, but Boba Fett is nothing.
I would love to see, they should combine the Jabba and Boba Fett movie.
I'd rather see a movie about the Sarlacc pit.
For one, they should combine the Jabba and Boba Fett movie.
Giant asshole in the desert.
And make it a gangster underworld movie. But Yoda, Yoda that we get in the prequels and the Yoda that we get in the original trilogy, they're 2 different Yodas to me. I don't want a movie about either of those Yodas. I don't see that character. It is a side character to me.
Huge character in Clone Wars, too.
A great side character. One of the most iconic film characters of all time. I don't think I want to see a movie about him.
I don't think this is ever going to happen.
I don't care for that.
Yeah. It's about time and effort for me when it comes down to it. Like this universe, and you know, when they announced Star Wars coming back, being purchased by Disney, Lucasfilm being purchased by Disney, and all this stuff, the excitement about the future is what I latch onto. And I say it every time we talk about Star Wars. This 30-year gap between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, that's, if we're talking about things of the unknown, that is far more interesting to me. We have spent literal decades. We have had to retcon literal decades of shit going on in previous to A New Hope that I don't care about. Like, write some fucking books about it. Don't make a movie about it. I just don't care.
Well, that's the thing, though, is because they're coming up with such great stories with the books and with the comic books. It's just, those things are inspiring, and then when you hear about these movies, it's like, I couldn't have guessed what Battlefront 2, the book, was going to be about.
Right.
But I can guess, like, anyone, especially like 2 or 3 years ago, when people were first talking about anthology movies. Oh, even an Obi-Wan movie, Yoda movie. I mean, anyone was like, oh, let's do this. And it's just like, that's, not only is it obvious, but it's even the most obvious choices were kind of the most undesired choices to me. I mean, so when they're coming out and when I see more material, I'm not going to act like, oh, I can't get excited about them. But right. I agree. It's like, I'm not excited about it.
Yeah, you don't want to live in the past.
It's not even about that. It's just I'm looking at Yoda and like, I don't need a movie about this guy. Give me something new. And the other thing too is another report came out that like Han Solo movie will feature the Death Star or something like that.
Yeah.
Dear Lucasfilm, I never ever
You never want to see a round shaped weapon ever again.
never want to see the Death Star ever again.
Right.
I don't. I'm reading Battlefront 2 right now. It's told from the perspective of the Empire after the Death Star blows up. At the beginning of that book, the first 50 pages are just recounting what happened in Rogue One and then recounting the ending of A New Hope. And from another perspective. And it's interesting, like the rest of the book will be interesting to me, but those 50 pages with that new character seeing the Death Star blow up again, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. Shattered Empire.
I'm exhausted.
Shattered Empire, which was a 4-issue comic book series about Poe's parents. It's great. Beginning of the comic is the ending of Return of the Jedi, where they're throwing a party on Endor and the Death Star just blew up. I'm over it. I'm done with the Death Star.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it. I really am. Move on.
Hey,
move on.
Let me ask you this question, and I think this goes into your Death Star topics and these other standalone movie points as well. Do you think that by them not being, I don't know if hesitant is the right word, but being more hesitant to tell these new stories and wanting to just stick with these existing properties, these existing things, these existing ideas, do you think it has anything to do with just being the safe bet that like maybe it's too much of a risk to tell these new stories because people don't know, they're not familiar with brand new characters?
I think Rogue One proved that they didn't have to be afraid.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, and I get your point because there's a lot of people that still didn't really get
and I don't
Rogue
think,
One.
I don't think they have to worry about anything at all.
They shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, at least. Yeah.
No. And Marvel isn't. Marvel doesn't give a shit. They'll
definitely.
make a Guardians of the
Yeah.
Excuse me. They'll make a Guardians of the Galaxy. They will make a Doctor Strange. And they don't give a shit. And it works. Star Wars is the exact same way.
They'll bring back.
They don't know it yet.
They'll bring back they'll make 2 Quicksilvers. I don't care at all. They're just like, whatever.
Well, that's not.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
that's not what happened. Oh, you meant they don't care another studio had a Quicksilver.
Yeah, like when you bring up things like, oh, well, what if Spider-Man's in the Venom movie? Like Marvel doesn't care about that. They're just like, whatever. I mean, they probably do care about that.
You know,
there's a big difference between Spider-Man and Quicksilver.
You know whose film predictions I never agree with?
Who's that?
John Schnepp. Every time he predicts what's going to happen, like, oh, the Fantastic Four will be Phase 4 of the MCU, or Spider-Man is 100% going to be in the Venom movie. He makes a lot of those kind of bold predictions, and every time I'm going, that is never happening.
There's a big difference between Christian and Schnepp.
And I'm shocked that he doesn't know better. There are so many things that he predicts. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Anyway, that's just my overall thoughts on the state of Star Wars right now. I'm excited about Obi-Wan because I think it should have been the first anthology movie. And I think it, again, can right so many wrongs. And it's about a character that I genuinely want to see more from with a great actor behind it. But
let me ask you a question. How many years do you think it'll be before we get the first anthology movie post Return of the Jedi? I think it's going to be a long time, but just...
Well, hey, I mean, after Episode 9 comes out in 2019, well, if that is the case, I don't know if it gets delayed or not, I don't know, but it's going to be 2020s.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say 10 years at least.
I don't know if I'll go that far.
I mean...
Time moves quick.
I know
the first Avengers came out 5 years ago, and it feels like that movie's 10 years old.
I don't think they're ever going to do a Knights of the Old Republic. I legitimately like. I think you want to talk about safe. The day that they're concerned, the day that they take their first penny of a loss, they'll say, "Guys, guess what? Knights of the Old Republic." People have been asking for that for so long. It's ridiculous,
and
it's getting annoying to me because everybody's like, "They'll do Knights of the Old Republic." Okay, we get it.
That's the other thing too, is that Obi-Wan will be fire at the box office, and I think Lucasfilm is going to get the wrong message.
Yeah.
Like, we need to keep doing this as opposed to taking risks and all that stuff. So that's I guess that is the one con, is that it's going to give Lucasfilm the wrong message after it's so successful. That's all I got on that.
Okay.
You want to go on to music?
Yeah, we could just get right into music. Maybe I'll insert a break or something.
I'm not sure how people listen to Sight and Sound every single week, whether it's on our YouTube page or it's on SoundCloud or you subscribe to the podcast itself. But if you're not subscribed to the podcast and you're listening to this right now, make sure that you know that every single week we bring you Sight and Sound Weekly, of course, but then we kind of break off and do our own little thing. We have Sight and Sound music episodes hosted by yours truly. Obviously, Ryan's got you covered in Sight and Sound movies, and we've even got Sight and Sound television. We do this weekly thing every single week. But for people looking for a little bit more content, we break it down to each individual categories that we talk about. Make sure you're subscribed on our podcast feed or on YouTube or however you find this podcast, and be on the lookout for our standalone episodes.
All right, let's talk about music. Let's talk about this band that a lot of people listening to this probably don't know who they are, and that's fine. I always say this about the band Brand New. You've either never heard of this band, or if you have heard of this band, you at least understand why people are so fanatical about them for one reason or another. For people that are my age that listen to the music genre of emo, Brand New means so much to them. And I say my age because I think there's a big difference between when I was in high school and Brand New was coming up and coming around. For me, the quintessential Brand New album was Deja Entendu. The album came out while I was in high school, but for you, it was probably The Devil and God Are Raging Inside of Me. Is that correct?
Yes, but I think you asked me that already knowing the answer to that.
Yes, I did. But I wanted to illustrate a point. Like,
yeah,
when I say nostalgic Brand New to you, like, I'm actually curious of this. What is your opinion on the album Deja Entendu?
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Was it an album you had to go back and listen to? Or was it your first?
I mean, I went back and listened to it. My introduction to Brand New was Devil and God. So yeah, but it's not like I don't know. I guess that you made it seem like I had to like dig deep to find it or something.
No, not at all. It's just different.
I went back to listen to it. Yes.
Right. It's just like a different interpretation. Like, for me, just to give people context, like, I got into Brand New having just gotten into Blink-182 and Newfound Glory, like back in the day. That's how there from the beginning I was, and people like me, the friends that I had, the friends group that I had, and it was just they're a very, very important band to so many people. But before we get into all that and we dive into what they mean and all this other bullshit, what is your take on the band? What is your perspective on this band? Your outlook now, I guess, and just your outlook from when you really, really listened to them a lot.
As far as the genre of emo goes, I was never really big on it. Like, emo to me was just like Hawthorne Heights.
Right.
And there were other bands that were
kind of wide sweeping term.
Yeah. And there were other bands like that. I was kind of into Census Fail. That first album, Let It Unfold You, was pretty great. But and then there was like The Used, which you could kind of throw in there. And I'm not labeling all these necessarily as emo, but these were the kind of bands that I all learned at once.
The mainstream sort of crossover bands. Yeah.
And then there were like things like MXPX and all that kind of stuff, and I wasn't ever really into that. And
What a random band for you just to dig up out of nowhere.
I'm just trying to think of all of them. Is NoFX, is that another one?
Well, those are punk bands, but okay.
MXPX is punk?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, again,
punk,
I learned
punk.
all of these bands at the same time, but
They were just sort of lumped in with this sort of underground.
right. It was like
Yeah.
Warped Tour 2004.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like what I'm naming off. And
Well, the history lesson with that is essentially all of these bands like broke at
Yeah.
this one moment in time. Bands like Saves the Day.
that's another one, yeah.
Yeah.
Protest the Hero.
Well, yeah, they were a little bit later than that, but like around 2001, I believe, bands like Saves the Day, Coheed and Cambria had gotten really big. Dashboard Confessional. I mean, just a bunch.
Dashboard.
A
Absolutely.
bunch of bands just really breaking through into the mainstream. And then all of a sudden, because the record industry was starting to feel the effects of Napster and whatnot, they felt this groundswell, this heightened sense of a new music genre coming to prominence, maybe the new grunge movement, so to speak, and they bit on all of these bands. So that's why you're kind of mentioning all these bands that are different genres of music in this one category.
So two other bands that stuck out aside from all of those were Bright Eyes and Brand New.
Taking Back Sunday?
Taking Back Sunday is a good one, yeah. But
My Chemical Romance?
I remember people being all about Bright Eyes and loving Conor Oberst and thinking he was amazing. And
No,
then
fuck Bright Eyes. Fuck Conor Oberst.
I actually I never got into them.
Yeah.
Never.
Never liked one
didn't
thing
care.
from them.
Didn't care.
They have a song called Bowl of Oranges or something that's pretty good.
Brand New was the band of those two that I guess those two bands just kind of sound similar. You hear Bright Eyes and Brand New. Brand New.
Bees. They've got bees.
Bees. So anyway,
Come on.
I don't remember the original question, but I remember a friend of mine used to take me over to my friend's house after school every day. We would all ride over together. And I will never forget hearing Sowing Season for the first time and just hearing him scream, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
I was in the back seat. She blared that song and the speaker was like right behind my head.
Right.
And it just like commanded my ears.
Yeah.
And I will never forget it. And when I got to my friend's house, I got on the computer and continued to listen to that album. And then
Did you read those lyrics?
Yeah. And then I heard, I don't know how to pronounce it properly, DeGauser?
DeGosser, yeah.
And then I heard that song.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, fuck. I said, here we go.
Amazing song.
It's
so fucking good.
I couldn't believe my ears.
Yeah.
And then I think that I had heard.
Do you know the story about that song and the lyrics?
No.
So no one, not even Jesse Lacey, knows 100% what the lyrics to that song is. In fact, the joke, this is some really deep knowledge of Brand New. So when they put that album out, when you opened up the album to read the lyrics, there was nothing in there. And when you read the liner notes at the very end, it says, for lyrics to this album, please send $1 to this address. They put that in there as a joke. Well, Brand New's a big band and people send their money. And they just printed the lyrics like 2 years ago. In fact, when I saw them live 2 years ago, it was a huge deal because people were finally getting the lyrics to that album. And people had been debating.
That's insane. I knew all the lyrics from any website available online.
So people have been debating what the lyrics to the song DeGosser were for a long time because there are some lyrics in there that could go one way or another. When I got that,
what they mean or what they are?
What they are. So I read through the lyrics and I went to DeGosser because that's been the most debated song on that album. And the the lyrics in the part that is the most debated is redacted. He doesn't even know what he says in the song.
What part could that possibly be?
There is a song. There's a line in the song where he says, fell asleep in, it's either in the incline or the alkaline. Some people think it's alkaline. Some people think it's incline.
Yeah.
I'm of the incline camp because alkaline doesn't make any sense.
Right. I always thought it was incline.
But those lyrics are not in the lyric booklet.
Interesting.
It's just funny. I'm sorry.
I had no idea. That's nuts.
Yeah.
I always just thought I knew. So anyway, And then I think
felt so sure.
I think I knew what Sick Transit was at the time. I just didn't connect it all together.
That's
so
Rushmore.
When I went back,
the movie Rushmore.
When I went back and listened to it, I was familiar with it. And then of course there's Okay, my Tommy Gun, or Okay, I Don't Believe You, but whatever.
Tommy Gun.
Yeah. And then Play Crack the Sky. That song means a whole hell of a lot to me.
It's my second favorite song of all time.
Wow.
Did you know that about me?
No.
Yeah.
Did you know that I used to play that song for months? I played that song to get me to go to sleep.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Did you know that
I know every word.
I legally downloaded that song, and for years I thought it was only a minute and a half. And then years later, I finally got the full album and realized that there's like 4 whole more minutes of that song.
I remember the ending of that song blowing my mind because there are like 5 layers of vocals going on, all doing different things.
Yep.
It was nuts. Anyway, so my point is...
How many songs have you written about shipwrecks?
Me?
Yeah.
0.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a common theme.
I wrote a song about Terminator Salvation, though.
Oh, yeah?
So, there you go, Sturgill. My point is, I hear all song after song after song, and all of these are bangers. And
they're all about you.
They're all highlighted by the lyrics.
Yes.
Lyrics. And I mean, I can throw out
for days. Yeah.
I can throw out a ton of lyrics from all of the songs that I mentioned so far. I remember my MySpace bio being, I hope the song starts a craze.
Right.
The kind of song that ignites the airwaves. The kind of song that makes people glad to be where they are with whoever they're there with. Yeah. There's just so many highlighted lyrics from all of these songs, and they're all bangers. And you know me, I care very much about vocals and lyrics, and this band had it all. They also just had, again, since I wasn't really enveloped in this emo genre, this was just a very particular and special band to me, and I've always really loved them and appreciated them, which is hilarious when you get to Daisy. So
that right there?
I loved, it's right there.
With that dog? I almost said that bird right there.
That actually looks like the movie poster to It Comes at Night.
That's exactly right. They ripped that
they sure did. Off. Which is funny because Daisy, like, I found Devil and God, and then I went back to Deja and Tundu. But by the time Daisy came out, it was like a Jaye Williams thing where like no one was telling me, which is weird because I should have been listening to it because I love the band so much. Mm-hmm. But no one was telling me, hey, go check this out, like pushing me to listen to Daisy. So it just got away from me, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm not familiar with this album at all. Or Daisy, excuse me, not the new one that we're talking about. But anyway, so brand new, even though I love those first 2 albums so much, they've gotten away from me, unfortunately. So
absolutely, yeah. Well, so a lot to really unpack, and thank you for sharing that. It's fantastic. I have an album review already up on the YouTube channel if you want to check it out, but I will go over some of the stuff that I talked about a little bit. So brand new for me is one of my all-time favorite bands, and Deja and Tundu is one of my all-time favorite albums. I don't know if that album is their best album. I think that probably is Devil and God, but that album specifically to me, I have an emotional connection to it. I connect with it because it's an album that essentially helped me get through high school. Everybody has that, right? Everybody has a soundtrack to a certain specific time in their life, and Deja and Tundu was that soundtrack for me. So it's very special. And I've talked about it a bunch. I did a music episode about it. Are you all right over there? I'm not a lyric guy. Lyrics are not something that stand out to me. Primarily, I'm more about music. But when we're talking about brand new, we're talking about lyrics because the lyrical content of brand new is the thing that probably stands out the most. Jesse Lacey is one of the best lyricists I've ever heard. I think, in my opinion, probably one of the best lyricists in our era of music. I mean, when we're talking about names, I mean, if Kurt Cobain was the lyricist for maybe a lot of people hail Kurt Cobain as a fantastic lyricist of his era. Jesse Lacey is somebody of our era, in my opinion. You were talking about emo bands and all this stuff and the genre and all that. Brand New, regardless of, people can debate this all they want, but there is no debate. Brand New is the quintessential emo band. There is no
Not Good Charlotte.
There is no band that has been as critically and commercially praised like Brand New. In fact, Brand New are the only band of this music genre, of this era, that could have done what they did to release this album, and we'll get into it in a second. But this band, for me, is very odd because their first album came out when I was in high school. I was a freshman in 2001, and this is only their fifth album. It's crazy to think about. Not only is this their fifth album, their last album came out 8 years ago, before the current state of pop culture discussion, like podcasts, YouTube channels, before it even existed. Anthony Fantano, the biggest music reviewer on YouTube, one of the biggest music reviewers in general, has never reviewed a Brand New album. That's crazy to think about. I am so excited that now this is part of the discussion at this level. It's very, very exciting to me as somebody that loves this band. I think music needs a Brand New album as well. We can talk about the album itself in just a minute, but it's crazy. This band is crazy. They're not a prolific band, but that sort of works in their favor. You never know what the fuck they're up to. They are a very cryptic band. There are online underground communities, like in the deep web, discussing stuff. There is a Twitter account called the Brand New Archive that has collected every single live recording that the band has ever done by the fans. Like, if somebody held up their fucking phone at a concert, they've sent it to this place and it exists on the internet for you to check out. They're just a special band. With all that being said, people have been wondering about this new album for a while now. People thought it was going to come out 2 years ago. It didn't. 2 years later, it's finally out. Earlier this week, they announced a pre-order for the album that was going to ship in October. I thought it was going to ship in October. On Thursday, I was leaving work. I checked Instagram, and the pre-order was up. I went to pre-order the album, and I did. And when I looked at my email, I had a link for the new album in my inbox, and I freaked the fuck out. I didn't just freak the fuck out. People, friends of mine, freaked the fuck out. Pitchfork, it was the headline news there. Congratulations, Ryan Snelling. You have officially been on Sight and Sound for a legitimate surprise album drop. How does that feel?
Hilarious, because when you were texting me about it, I could not have cared less.
Right, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And not because of Brand New, but because I don't get excited about music anymore.
Right.
So you were like, holy shit. Yeah. The Brand New album just dropped, or I just got, or whatever you said. And I'm like, it's not a big deal.
I got,
well, and I was just waiting for you to say, Snelling, if this was Star Wars, you would care a lot.
Well, the funny thing about it was I was interested as what the reaction would be.
You know, this is not on Spotify, by the way.
It is now, I thought. It's not on Spotify?
It is not.
Are you sure? Because as of earlier today, strange. Earlier today,
it's on our Spotify's because we have the album.
Right. Let me hang on a second. I'm going to, just because earlier today, Pitchfork reported that it was finally on all streaming services. But okay. No, I don't want Brand New Day. Why is
Brand New Day? That Family Guy joke. So I'll keep talking while
you're right. It's not on there. It's crazy. I think it's on Apple Music. But regardless, so many people very confused by the fact that it wasn't on streaming services. Everybody hitting me up. Hey, like they were trying to buy drugs. DMs from people on Instagram, Twitter. Hey, man, can I get the album? Can I get the album? Can I get the album? Guys, what year is this? Just buy it. It'll be out soon.
So I didn't even realize we're talking about an album that no one has.
That a lot of people. You just did your best Eric impression. We just talked.
I wasn't even trying to.
Yeah, I don't know if people have heard it or not that are listening to this. If you haven't and you don't know anything about Brand New, definitely go check it out. But look, the last thing I'll say, and then I want your take on the album itself. So I don't take to Brand New albums very easily. The first time I heard Dejan Tandu, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was weird. I thought it was just wacky. It wasn't the pop punk music that they had put out on their first album. Eventually, I loved it. Same thing with Devil and God. Didn't care for the album until years later. Daisy, I didn't even enjoy Daisy until 2 years ago when I saw them play the album live, and I love the album. It's strange because it's by far their most aggressive album, which is odd for me that maybe you haven't taken to it as much because it is so aggressive, which is, we'll talk about it when we get to this album, but it's a very stark contrast to this one because this album is not aggressive at all, in my opinion. And I don't think any brand new album has been less than great, in my opinion. And for fans that don't take to Daisy as well, I would challenge you to spend more time with it.
I think the difference might have been I was introduced to both brand new albums that I spoke about via particular songs. Whereas with Daisy, I was like anticipating the album. And I think that might have been the difference. I think I have a little bit of what you're talking about. It wasn't easy for me to take to a brand new album, but I was invited into those two previous ones through what happened to be my favorite songs on those particular albums. So I think that's what it is. So I think I just need to hear.
You need to find that moment.
I need to find the Daisy song to get more involved with Daisy. And I think that carries over into this new album as well.
Right.
Same
you
thing.
need to find, and that sort of has a lot to do with the Ryan Snelling algorithm. It's anything that I send him, I have to choose the particular song very, very carefully. Like you can't just say, "Hey, here's an album."
Oh no!
If the first song isn't a hit 9 times out of 10, you're probably not going to spend any time with it. Which I will challenge you to do. But I was thinking about this off air. I was getting mad at you a little bit, like not mad, but annoyed. Like I'm able to talk. I watch all these trailers. I do all this stuff to talk about movies and TV shows all the time. Why can't he just listen to the albums more? But then I thought about it and I was like, I've only been to 5 movies this year, and you might have only listened to 5.
I want a teaser trailer for an album.
Isn't that what a single is?
No, I want to hear a bunch of songs in like 30 seconds.
Didn't they used to do that? I feel like they used to do that on YouTube with like Rise Records stuff all the time.
I think that just sounds like an infomercial to me.
Kind of, yeah.
Like when they advertise, the very few times that I've ever seen advertisements for albums, they cycle through like 5 songs within the length of a commercial.
Right.
But,
all right, so we've given the build up for this enough. What did you think of this thing? How much have you listened to it? It's only been out a few days.
I think I've listened to half of it. You described it to me as just sort of a combination of what they were doing with Dejan Tandu and
it has elements
and Devil and God. I can hear it.
Yeah.
I think that more, and again, I'm not as familiar with Daisy, so you can help me out with this. But this is the most droning of all of the albums to me.
It's much slower paced. This album has more to do with like a Coldplay album or even a Radiohead album.
This album is more droning to me, and I think that there's less. This is actually weird because actually these two things kind of contradict each other, but I guess it just depends on the song because there's the one song. What's the one that has teeth in the title? It's like long something / teeth or something like that.
But yeah, I know the song.
It is the most like erratic, weird, strange song with several different interesting change-ups.
Ideas, yeah, a lot of ideas.
But overall, I think there are few change-ups in the entire. You have moments like the screaming "yeah," for example. Or like really quiet and then epic climaxes in De Gauser, for example.
Identifiable moments.
You have obvious change-ups that make those previous works really, really interesting.
Yes.
I think that this isn't as interesting in those ways.
This is the most cohesive brand new project, in my opinion. This album is the first brand new album to me that is one complete idea. And I think that's sort of touching.
So
for music fans listening to this, I compare this album to Radiohead's A Moon-Shaped Pool, because as long as that band has been around, they've done exactly what you're describing for Brand New. Like they have these, each song is sort of a different idea. It always keeps you guessing. Where A Moon-Shaped Pool was the first album in their entire career where it was this body of work. Like they went into it with this one specific idea. It's kind of like when Mumford & Sons said, we're going to do the electric album. They just went way chilled the fuck out.
So with this new album, Science Fiction, that we're talking about, there's no varying from a song like Sick Transit to Play Crack the Sky.
There is no degausser. There is no...
Well, no, what I'm saying is there's no... The way that Sick Transit and Play Crack the Sky are two completely different songs, there's not that. It's one playing field for this album.
If it exists on the album, the lines are much more blurred. 100%. And you are so on point with that description. In fact, I think the longer you probably were to spin with the album, or anybody spins with this album, I think those lines in the sand become a little bit more clear. But of course, on first listen, it's that way. But what I will say to that regard is, we've talked about it a lot before. If you're going to make an album, give me a reason to have an album. Like, this isn't really a collection of songs. This is more of a body of work to me. Like, it is one idea. I mean, imagine a movie where imagine going to a movie where every scene was just a completely different tone. Like, we're much more accepting of an album like that to a certain extent, especially albums where you turn your mind off and you just are like, rah, whatever, this is a banger, this is a banger. But I think for diehard music fans, people that really, like, if you were going to buy an album on vinyl, this might be the best album to buy on vinyl. There is no skipping songs on, I mean, you can, but most people just play the vinyl all the way through.
Right.
This, I'm going to drop a bomb on you right now. This album is Brand New's mood album.
I'm actually going with you on this.
Yeah, 100%. Can here's what I will say.
Same Logic / Teeth is the song. That song gets wild at parts.
Oh, 100%. The funny thing about this is, even though it is one idea in terms of, I think, the tone of the album, there are some different stylistic changes on it. Like, for instance, the opening two songs are very grooved out. They have this very repetitive beat that remind me a little bit of Bouncy Composure's Light We Made. Like, there's this very grooved out beat to it. It's slow. Like, I could easily see myself bobbing to it 100%. But then you have some songs later on in the album that are a little bit more folky, like more acoustic driven. But with all that being said, if you were to play Daisy, Devil and God, in this album, all three within one another, like back to back to back, they all sound like the same band. Like, they have the same sound to it. This was no Gambino change.
Exactly. No, not at all.
Exactly.
And I wanted to say that I agree that when I'm listening, when I was hearing the first few songs, I could hear Deja Entendu at parts. More so musically, but
the thing I'll say when I talk about the combination of Devil and God and Deja, stylistically, the aesthetic of the album is Devil and God. Like, it sounds like a Devil and God album, but the things that it's taking from Deja are actually some of the choruses. I challenge anybody to listen to the song 137 and not get the chorus stuck in your head, which I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the content, but the chorus is, let's all go play Nagasaki. Let's all go vaporize. Like, that's just a catchy melody. You don't
hear controversial.
I know, right? You don't hear melodies like that on Daisy or Devil and God. But they're sort of laced out throughout the album. I'm excited for you to check out the last song on this album, because it does have a little bit of a Play Crack the Sky sort of vibe to it. And the last thing I will say before we wrap this up, lyrically, I have no idea. I have not spent enough time with this thing to mess around with lyrics, but what I will say is that a lot of people are saying that this is Brand New's last album, and the thing that I'm getting from it is mortality, not mortality as like life and death, somebody being afraid of death, but the concept of, imagine being in a band your entire life and that coming to an end, but singing about that from your perspective as a band member, as a songwriter, but also to the fans. Like there are songs on here that I feel like are to the fans. The song Waste, to me, at least right now, sounds like a song to him saying, even though we're going to die as a band, you guys can live on and you guys still need to be uplifted and all this stuff, which is odd because you don't hear a lot of brand new songs that are overtly positive. Like they're kind of melodramatic. So
another point, maybe my last point, so far, no lyrics have stood out to me.
Yeah.
There's been no highlights. There's
Right,
been
100%.
the way that Jesus Christ, I'm not scared to die. I'm a little bit scared of what comes after. Do I
Right.
get the gold chariot or do I float through the ceiling?
I actually hate the lyrics in that song because, well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. The longer time has gone on with Brand New, the more metaphorical their songs have become, and the less I'm able to attach myself to their lyrics.
I love the lyric. So what did you do those 3 days you were dead? Because
Yeah.
this problem's gonna last more than the weekend.
Yeah.
I think that's insanely clever.
It's a great line. I love I forget the lyrics now to it, Indigosser, where you're my favorite bird. I really do wish that you'd wear my ring. It's just funny to me. You're my favorite bird.
Take me
Birds are
back to
terrible.
your bed. I love you so much
Yeah.
it hurts my head. I don't mind you under my skin. I let the bad parts in. I let the bad
Yeah.
parts in. When we were made, I set apart.
When we were made, we were set apart. My life is a test, but I get bad marks. No matter something, no matter what they say, I'm still.
And I get bad marks. Saint got the job of
Writing
writing
down
down
my
my sins.
sins.
A storm is coming. A storm is coming.
But he says, no matter what they say, I'm still the king. That's how I feel about podcasting
Now the
in
storm is
general.
coming. Storm is coming. Yeah.
Okay, we've petered out. I'm excited for you to at least spend more time with it. I foresee my reviews up, and I couldn't think of anything negative about it. This album isn't for everybody, but I think with enough time, everybody could find something to appreciate about it.
I don't want this so far, and again, my opinion might change. So far, I don't want this to be anybody's first brand new album. So
No,
if you guys
that's a
are
good
listening
point.
to this, it's actually great that this isn't out on Spotify right now, that we've got some time before it officially releases, at least we think. So if anything, I want this conversation to prompt you all checking out those first two albums and then all of the songs that we've mentioned.
I'm going to put together
So
a brand new starter pack playlist.
is that right?
I'll drop it in the link of the descriptions below if you're on Spotify. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll close out with Defenders Talk.
This story's old, but it goes on and on till we did.
There is a ton of content over on the Sight and Sound YouTube page. Obviously, you can listen to us talk via podcast form, but we've got you covered with a ton of other content as well. I'm doing album reviews and music discussion. Ryan is doing movie stuff. We're doing TV stuff. We're doing vlogs, a bunch of shenanigans over on the Sight and Sound YouTube page. All you got to do is go to YouTube, search for Sight and Sound, subscribe to our channel, or you can click in the link in the description box of this podcast and subscribe to us. It's good times. Watch our faces, listen to stuff. YouTube is the place to be.
Let's talk about the Defenders.
Yeah.
The first Marvel Netflix show I've ever finished.
It really is. Yeah.
It legitimately is.
We talked about the Defenders like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was because I thought that we were a week out, and I ended up being very wrong. We did get the series Atypical on Netflix. Did you ever watch Atypical?
I'm a big Michael Rappaport fan.
Atypical came out in place of what I thought was going to be the Defenders, but here we are, guys.
That was our mistake.
This episode of Sight and Sound Weekly, of course, comes out on a Monday. So we are assuming that you watched all 8 episodes of The Defenders. This is an open discussion. This is a review. This will be filled with spoilers. So if you have not finished The Defenders, get out of here, finish watching it, come back. Or if you just don't care, keep listening. People like Eric. Did you see Eric's take on the Defenders?
No. What did he say?
He basically said that a superhero show, is only as good as the hero's powers. And if they don't interest me, then the show doesn't interest me. So
well, first of all,
that's his
Daredevil
logic.
barely has powers.
Well,
Iron Fist powers.
Daredevil is essentially Wolverine without adamantium.
We can't heal himself.
That too.
Yeah. He's nothing like Daredevil. He can fight. He's like Batman with good hearing.
Yeah.
That's literally what he is.
Oh, he's Marvel's Batman without a doubt. That's why I love him so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I love Daredevil, is because he's Marvel's Batman.
Luke Cage is essentially like Superman, but he can't fly and shoot lasers out of his eyes.
I find that horribly stupid.
Here, let me wait.
Eric's take on
his
that.
take on that?
Yeah, because
just watch the show.
Because that's
just watch the show. I want your like legitimate take on this. I don't know why I'm saying take. It's just a question. What hero did you walk away from this being like, remove Daredevil from this? Because you weren't a huge fan of Luke Cage. You weren't a huge fan of Iron Fist, and you weren't a huge fan of Jessica Jones.
That's not true at all.
Okay, but I mean, just in general, like.
Oh, you mean prior to?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Of the three, walking away from the Defenders, because I think, do you think the Defenders had the most action probably of any of the seasons?
No.
Okay, maybe that's not the best way to describe it. It doesn't matter. Which of the heroes did you walk away from being like, oh, you know what? The hero was actually like, their powers and stuff was interesting and cool. I enjoyed their powers.
Aside from Daredevil,
yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much all on the same playing field.
See, for me, it was Luke Cage. Like, I walked away being like, man, having Luke Cage on your side, like of all of them, he is the one that could easily be in the Avengers the most.
I can get on board with that. I really enjoyed kind of seeing him just take all the bullets for everyone in a couple of scenes. I thought that was really cool. And plus, he can just throw himself around and it doesn't really matter. I mean,
they kind of addressed it on the show, but I felt like he was also very underutilized. Like, I feel like he could have neutralized most of those situations.
This could be a very geeky conversation.
Oh, 100%.
But the reason why I still would say that they're all on the same playing field is that Luke Cage has nothing to offer in the martial arts department. So when he's going up against the Hand, I mean, not that they can do anything, but he's a lot slower. He's not skilled,
right?
So
course.
he doesn't have as much to offer, but he is essentially invincible. So it's not like he's getting hurt, but at the same time, he's all defense essentially, unless he can get a random punch in there.
While we're on this topic, just because we just jumped right into this topic, can I bring up my first thing that I'm a little bit like nitpicky about with this show? I felt like I had a hard time deciphering like who had what power and whose power, like to what level their powers
Can we
were.
backtrack a little bit and make this more? Can we kind of start over? Because I feel like we're already kind of all over the place. But
we're talking about powers.
Let's get into. I want to kind of do the first impressions.
Okay,
very briefly, because we did just talk about it a couple weeks ago.
What, just give you a trailer on the conversation?
But you hadn't completed any of the. But you did recently.
I've seen every season of a Marvel show. I haven't finished any season of a Marvel show.
Update us, because I just found out last weekend that you had watched the first few episodes of season 2 of Daredevil, which has been the season that I've been wanting you to watch the whole time.
I started Daredevil when it first came out. I stopped at about episode 4. I got up to go to the bathroom and I never started it back.
That's season 1, right?
Season 1 of Daredevil.
Okay,
so just not interested in it.
Yeah.
I just didn't care. Just really didn't care. Not a commentary on how good it was. I just didn't care. Jessica Jones. I saw bits and pieces of Jessica Jones because Kayla, my girlfriend, is a huge fan of Alias, which was awesome to sort of, especially after watching The Defenders, to sort of pick her brain and get like on the deep dive of Jessica Jones. Like the fact that Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel is essentially her best friend, and they had to write her out of the show because of her involvement with the whole MCU in general. Just finding stuff out about her was really, really cool. I got a inside knowledge, and I actually enjoyed some of the stuff that I did see from Jessica Jones. Just didn't get a chance to sit down and actually watch it. Luke Cage, I found massively uninteresting as well. Like, I just thought it moved really slow. I thought the pacing of it was unfortunate, and then Iron Fist in general was just not great. Season 2 of Daredevil,
which is hilarious because you watched the most of Iron Fist out of all of them.
For sure. So season 2 of Daredevil, watched the first 4 episodes to get all of my takes of the Punisher. Thought it was fantastic. Just thought, I mean, my God, the Punisher is, I want all of that you have and more. I was taken back so much by
Is
Daredevil.
that what you think, Red?
Listen to me. I need everybody to pay attention. Some of that stuff on with the Punisher is the most brutal stuff I've ever seen on television, period. Ever, period. I mean, this guy, there is no holding this guy back. This is rated R television to its max. It is so fucking violent, so fucking brutal, and it's everything that I ever would want the Punisher to be. I also didn't finish watching that season, but I went on YouTube and watched a compilation of every scene involving the Punisher past episode 4.
Even the courtroom scenes?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
The when I say violent,
When he was on trial?
the jail scene, him breaking out of jail, where and he did.
Did you see him talking to Kingpin?
Yes, I just said every scene.
I didn't know if it meant action.
Yeah. So the scene where he's fighting out of the jail, when somebody just punches him, and instead of him punching him back, just grabbing his face and digging his fingers into his eyes. Love it. Love every second of it.
It's too bad you didn't watch the show.
I didn't need to.
Anyway, so yeah,
The Defenders.
great update. So the Defenders. I've seen every Netflix Marvel show. We kind of listed off my preferences. Both Daredevil is my favorite character. Jessica Jones I enjoyed very much. Okay, the Defenders. So 8 episodes. Let's start with that. So we knew that we were going to get 8 episodes, and we knew that this was going to be Marvel's Avengers. I was slightly worried, thinking that we were cramming.
Really?
We were cramming so much.
But that's one of the biggest negatives to the show.
Exactly. But then, but you're piling on what you have to, at least ideally. When I'm like, if you wanted to say Daredevil season 3, 8 episodes, great. Okay, but you're stacking the deck and you're adding every other main character. That's what worried me. Is that
We just knew that there couldn't be fat.
I
We
figured
couldn't
that
fuck around.
I figured that if Marvel was gonna have a season with 13 episodes, it would be the one with all 4 primary characters. So what I will say is that it worked. I think the duration of time that we got with all of these characters, it's weird. That 8 episodes sounds perfect for a Daredevil season. It's weird how you had all of the headliners, and I think it was pretty well balanced. But at least it didn't feel like there was no stretch of time where I thought, okay, enough.
I disagree. There's two. To this whole discussion, everything involving. So the first 4 episodes I thought were paced incredibly. I thought the pacing of those episodes were amazing. In fact, some episodes after that were paced pretty well too. However, I still felt walking away from this season, the second half of the season seemed very, very bloated to me. And it had nothing to. Every time the Defenders themselves were on.
That's a different point than what I was getting at.
I think 8 episodes of a TV show, of this TV show, or not just this TV show, but of these Marvel shows, 100%. Yes, that should be how it is. For some reason, I know exactly what it was, but for me, the season still felt bloated to me. There were times in the show that I felt like they actually really got the pacing wrong in the second half of the season.
I was saying the opposite. I was saying that there was no drag.
I do think there was drag. That's what I'm saying. Bloated. It was bloated.
That's the opposite.
No, there was too much going on for this show.
Oh, that doesn't, when I hear too much going on, that doesn't sound like something's dragging. It just feels like it's just, there's no focus.
So, okay.
But dragging is like, for example, in Luke Cage, there's an episode where Luke Cage has to very promptly and quickly drive from where he is in Harlem. They have to go do something in Georgia real quick. So it's a complete aside. It's dragging the season. Whereas when you say something's bloated, that's not dragging to me.
Right.
That's just something else.
It's bloated in the sense where there's one aspect of this season that I just felt like they spent way too much time on.
And what was that?
It was everything to do. Okay. The hand in this show and the villains in this show were nothing to me. They were absolutely nothing to me. I never this show, the villain in this show had the exact same problem that I had with Batman versus Superman. Not only did I not give a fuck about what their motives were, but I don't think they ever really fully explained exactly what they were trying to do.
So, well, what they were trying to do is that they needed more substance to continue their missions.
That's the other thing.
And
Can we come up with a better name than The Substance?
I didn't have a problem.
It's so annoying.
I didn't care.
Be smarter. Come on. The Substance? Are you serious? That's lazy to me. That's so shitty to me. The Substance.
I didn't really think anything of it, but that was essentially the goal, is so that they can prolong this reach and control.
They're trying to defeat death. They're trying to be
but they're
immortal.
also trying to maintain control of essentially the entire world, is what they're getting at. And prolonging their mission. But
that sounds like bad to be bad to me.
Well, I mean, in a sense, that's where you can actually relate to. Well, I don't know if relate, but understand where the villains are coming from, at least. And I do think I don't have a problem with the hand, but if you want to talk about villain problems, I think that Sigourney Weaver's character was totally wasted. And if anything, the shorter, we know that this is kind of Marvel's Netflix's Avengers, right? That's what everybody was calling it. That's the whole point. This was like a Marvel movie, and this 8-episode season had the same villain problem that every single MCU villain has, is that they're there, and maybe that they're bad to be bad, and you don't really get a sense of where they are, but that's what Sigourney Weaver was to me. And maybe that's just because I've dealt with the hand for 3 other seasons. I know what they're about. It wasn't as great in Iron Fist as it was in Daredevil to me. But like in Daredevil season 2, the hand was a menace.
Of course, yeah.
Truly. And so much,
from what I've been told.
So much in fact that they were the villain of both Daredevil seasons, essentially. Right. So the hand has been around, and they've been a pest for us fans. And the hand part didn't bother me, but Sigourney Weaver I thought was wasted, not only because it was Sigourney Weaver, but because
I actually thought she did a good job.
She did. No, she did, but she had moments. She had shining moments, but I think it says it all that she was removed with 2 episodes left.
Let me say one thing just about the I guess it'd be the 5 baddies, right? The big baddies, is that we were just told they were threatening, okay? And their basically their main power, or their threat on our characters, was that they had a lot of people to throw at them, like a bunch of disposable.
It's volume.
Exactly. A bunch of people to throw at them, which is fine. I get that 100%. But even in the final showdown, like, I never felt like, oh my gosh, I never felt like the Defenders were ever threatened by anybody, if I'm being completely honest with you.
So that's interesting, because I mean, the hand was so annoying that they were literally crawling on walls in Daredevil season 2.
Right.
Like, there were so many of them, and it felt like it was never ending. and it didn't feel never ending, like almost to the point where I recognized the same stuntmen that played like the guys that excellent sequence of Elektra training in like episode 3 or 4, whatever it is, where she's training for like 10 minutes. Those same stuntmen were the same stuntmen that were in the boardroom when Iron Fist confronts them all. And episode 4, it's like there were so few of the hand. I could pick up on that. And it doesn't, ideally, the hand overall should not be brought down by the collapse of one building. Like, the hand isn't all down there.
Can we talk about Elektra? Because she's really the big baddie.
So Elektra is the big baddie. And I think
essentially the Terminator.
I think there's still pathos there because you've dealt with everything going on with her and Matt from season 2, but she isn't an effective villain either for the Defenders because she's a zombie for most of it, which then means she has no motives either, essentially. Because then even Elektra is kind of bad to be bad. And like, yes, there are some interesting moments between her and Matt at the end, and I appreciated those. Because, I've been on this journey with them. But for the Defenders, she's not a great villain either.
A light switch went off towards the end of this season for me. And I said, something about this is very, very familiar. And then it finally clicked. This storyline with her and Daredevil is essentially the Winter Soldier. It's the exact...
Yeah.
It's an echo. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I could see that, definitely.
No, Bucky, it's me. Don't you recognize me? And then when Bucky and they finally make out, him and Captain America,
the hope of turning her, like thinking that you can turn them back and break them free, and definitely,
and also just like that's one other thing too.
And Hydra in the hand would be very similar.
I was also just never really fully clear on like what. Okay, so she was brought back to life. She's obviously a very good fighter. Again, I was never really clear on what her abilities were, or if she even had abilities, because there are times like...
You mean like, is she enhanced?
Yeah, because we'll see, right? No. That's what I thought, except when Iron Fist there's that brilliant sequence where Danny Rand is fighting Luke Cage and he's just like hitting him and sweep kicking him and doing nothing, and then finally he has to ignite his Iron Fist to hit him.
Yeah.
But then I also saw Elektra literally kick Luke Cage and him fly across the room at one point. Like, that's what I'm saying. Things are unbalanced, and I'm just like, or when Jessica Jones hits her and she has super strength, but it just does nothing to her.
I think I need something from Kevin Marks on this.
Yeah,
because I know that the character in general, there are spiritual elements to Elektra, but as far as this one that we have in the Netflix series, I don't think it ever goes beyond that.
I just feel like
she was trained by Stick. She's as enhanced as Daredevil is without super senses.
Well, the two problems with that are, one, if she does have powers, then we were just never really fully explained that. And two, if she doesn't have powers, then it just doesn't really make sense. Yeah. Like Luke Cage, okay, I get that she's more fast than Luke. She poses no threat to Luke Cage. If they were to fight one-on-one, there's nothing that she can do to harm him. Am I right? I mean, she's just using swords.
Right. But again, I think it would go
he might not be able to defeat her.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's stalemate.
Exactly.
But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that this has a villain problem. With that being said,
I feel like we've just shit on this the whole time.
With that being said,
I enjoyed the show.
With that being said, I acknowledge that most Marvel movies have that villain problem.
Yeah.
Yet I enjoyed the shit out of them.
Yeah.
So what I will say, let's continue talking about the characters. We talked about the villains. So Daredevil is obviously my way in. I have always loved Daredevil. He's my favorite Netflix series. I think they do the best job with them series. I think Charlie Cox, I've said it before and I still agree. I think Charlie Cox is almost as brilliant, probably as brilliant casting as Downey Jr. Not as far as like maybe I'm not talking like charisma levels. I'm just talking about how perfect
he does a great job.
He's fantastic. He kills it. And after seeing him play Daredevil, I remember when he was announced as Daredevil, I had no idea who he was, and I was just like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
I mean, I was the one that wanted Michael C. Hall to play Daredevil.
That would have been a great one.
I wanted Michael C. Hall to play Matt Murdock. So anyway, they picked Charlie, and I could not have been more wrong. He is incredible. I don't want to see anybody play Daredevil again, except Charlie Cox.
Yeah.
And so that's just what I gravitate to the most, and I think he did a great job. What I don't care for as much, and it's not something I hate, but I just think it sucks that after most people disliked Iron Fist.
Time out. I want to ask you this question before we go any further. How hilarious is it that Iron Fist was the most critically hammered season, but you cannot have the Defenders without Iron Fist? In fact, he was the center point of the whole story.
The Defenders,
did that take you by surprise?
The backbone of the Defenders is primarily deals with the mythology
of Iron Fist
and Kunlun.
It's hilarious to me.
And I thought that was a little annoying. And I think Iron Fist was better, but it's not a complete turnaround. I think
I disagree.
People were already talking about a complete 180.
I don't know about that.
It's not.
It's like a 90 degree.
I don't think that. I mean, anytime he was like, I know that the others didn't take him seriously, and that helped. Luke Cage saying, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Right.
That stuff is funny, and I like that. But I still can't take Finn Jones seriously when he goes, "I am the Iron Fist." Like I know, like he's ruined the term Iron Fist for me. I never want to hear those words spoken again in these series, just because I can't. When he does that, I can't take him serious. And so, yes, it did sprout funny moments, and I'm willing to. But he's not my Iron Fist. I just can't accept it. I just don't. I don't care for him at all in the show. Better, yes, but it's not a complete 180. It's not like, oh, everything's forgiven.
I thought he did. I thought he did a good job in the show. Like, if we're just talking about succeeding and not succeeding, I actually thought he did a really good job in the show. In fact, I said this in my mid-season review, but the opening scene, just the opening fight scene with him in general, their interactions with he and Colleen Wing, is that her name? Yeah.
Character name, yeah.
Character name. Was already better than everything I had seen.
See, I actually didn't care for that scene, and that's not even a criticism of him or as Iron Fist.
I don't
just
like
thought
how dark everything was.
It was dark. I just couldn't tell what was going on.
Like that, the climactic fight scene down there in the basement was. I might as well not watched it.
Oh, I could see it. That's because your stupid TV. Fix your TV.
I watched it on my phone. I'm just kidding. I didn't watch. I've watched most of the show on my phone.
I guarantee you, we can go out there and fix your TV right now.
No, I don't
it's the way you've set your contrast.
I don't want to do that.
Guarantee it.
I don't want to do that. But regardless,
it has to be your idea.
But a lot of things were dark. Chris Stuckman said that too.
Oh, okay. It's got to be right.
So, no, look, I think my favorite character was actually Jessica Jones in the show because
100%.
I had the most connection with her just because she's so, and I don't mean to say this with any sort of weird thing, but she's the most damaged character in the sense that
100%.
In the sense too that we see so many superheroes like if they have flaws, it's a thing about them. I'm the flawed one. I'm the one with problems. She doesn't really wear that on her sleeve. She just sort of swallows it and like she doesn't want to fucking talk about her problems. Like it is who she is, and people need to either accept it or move on. But it also makes her the most humanized character, I think. I love Daredevil in general, but one of my biggest issues with the show was how fucking annoying Foggy and Karen were in the show. Like,
so Karen doesn't bother me, but I've realized Foggy
is nothing.
Well, no, I don't agree with that. I can't remember his name. Edwin is the actor.
Yeah,
Edwin
the guy from Mighty Ducks.
I don't think he's good.
I definitely don't think he's good. No,
I've rewatched some of season 2 not too long ago. I don't know why he's cast as Foggy.
He's terrible.
I really don't. I hate saying that.
Their whole motivation towards Matt Murdock in general is so frustrating. Like, it's okay. There is this massive group of people that is trying to take down this city, and you're still concerned. Don't do this. I thought you put this life behind you. That became so old after a while. Also, love Daredevil. He was so emo in the first like half of the season that it was hard for me to just digest his character. It's not I'm not even saying it's a negative, but it kept me from him being my favorite character. Like for me, my ranking is number 1 Jessica Jones, number 2 Luke Cage, 3 Daredevil, 4 Iron Fist.
Really?
Yeah.
See,
I love Luke Cage in this show. I just think he's such a lovable character. Like he's the Hurley of this show.
Yeah. Okay, I mean that's fair, but I think acting wise, I think Matt and Charlie Cox had the most to do. I mean, there were times when he was just filled with rage, whereas
100%.
Everyone's kind of one note for the most part.
I love that about his character too. The fact that he has this inner urge to be Daredevil, but he's constantly fighting it. I love it.
I mean, seeing him get really pissed at times, and I just thought it was really, really good. And I think he shined more than anybody, even over Sigourney Weaver. But Jessica Jones is the person that she was my second favorite, and I just wanted more from her. I really did. And like for example, one of the most hard hitting moments for me, and this might sound silly, but it's when Matt and Jessica meet for the first time in the interrogation room, and he says, I know what happened with Kilgrave.
Great.
And that one line and seeing her look and her reaction, that was one of the most had the most weight of like any of the scenes of the entire season.
Just
like,
hearing that name be brought up and see her reaction.
And seeing those two characters have that conversation and realize what's going on. I mean, I just loved it. I thought it was great. And for some reason that was a weird payoff in and of itself.
Right.
But anyway, basically, my opinions of all 4 of the characters prior to seeing the show remain the same. I think Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist is sort of the order. But yeah, I just don't like the problem with relying on Iron Fist mythology is that I still don't buy dragons in this.
Yeah.
In this world.
Yeah, for as gritty and grounded in being in New York as it is, like we bring in this mythological thing.
Of Kunlun. It's like, and we haven't even seen it. Like, we didn't see him fight the dragon. Right. We saw him like arrive at Kunlun at the end of Iron Fist, and that's it. But it's just like some snow and mountains. But it's like, I don't see anything mystical beyond his fist, and it's just like I'm just not there.
We're emotionally detached from it because you're asking us to buy into something that that's actually a huge issue. Like you are spending so much of this season asking for us to put our emotional investment into something that you're not providing us. It's a huge misstep for me. Let me just say this: the thing that this show. The reason why I really, really want a Defenders 2 is because I love the Defenders. I love them coming together. I love them all fighting. I love all of this stuff. I just didn't buy into what they were fighting against. Not only do I want a season 2, I don't see any reason why we couldn't get an annual show of this. Like, they executed this really well, and I think they balanced it all pretty well for the most part. Like, that was something that we talk about all the time. How do you juggle all of these things? And yes, you do need standalone seasons of shows.
It's 100% scheduling
100%.
with the other shows.
You need it, but is it though? Because all of these individuals could just be casted on the same show. Right? I mean, shows have casts. Why can't this be the cast? It's not like these people are doing these huge blockbuster movies.
What do you mean? Like a season of Jessica Jones, but still have them in it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
maybe.
I mean, and this is where I want to.
But they might not want to do that.
That's true. I mean, 100%. But you pay them that Marvel money, and they'll do whatever the fuck you want them to do.
That will.
Missed opportunities is one thing that I do want to talk about here. So I have dabbled in a few DC shows. One of my favorite things about DC shows is just seeing random people and characters that we know of or have heard of pop up here and there. It's not even a criticism on the season, but I will say this. I spent most of the season waiting for a Punisher cameo. I also waited for this entire season to potentially see a nod, at least a nod to Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a huge character in the Defenders comic book. People, you talk about people want an Obi-Wan movie. People want the fucking Moon Knight to be on Netflix.
Yeah, but that's been entirely speculated by fans. Like, there's been no hint that they care or plan on doing it. Yeah,
100%. But to even just have a, like, at one point,
what's the alter ego of Moon Knight? Who's the character?
I don't remember his name.
Like, but him being mentioned.
Yeah,
the way that
or the mythology of Moon Knight.
The way that Stephen Strange was mentioned in Winter Soldier out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Like, hearing that name really struck a chord. I remember hearing that for the first time. Like, holy shit, they just mentioned Doctor Strange.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that moment very much. So I get what you're saying.
Just the mythology, and again, it's not a criticism on the show itself. It's just something that I felt like was a missed opportunity. But I really was waiting for like something for the Punisher to come into play, and when we didn't get that, that's fine. But I guess
Blade.
it is what it is. You know what I realized?
Or Ghost Rider.
Let me tell you exactly what I realized coming out of this show. Just all the opportunity that they do have to tell more stories. When they were walking around with those swords, I kind of wanted a Blade TV show. I think a Blade TV show would be fucking great.
Yeah. One thing that I've addressed, speaking of weapons, let's talk about the action. Because that's one of my biggest criticisms with all these shows. There's this disconnect with the editing and the choreography. I've never, ever been impressed with any of the fighting outside of Daredevil. And even Daredevil has its moments. This was better.
A lot better, yeah.
This was better. I can still clearly see when it's a stunt double. And
what about when Madame Gal was fighting?
Some of that, like that stuff is clunky. That parking garage with the pallets of bricks, like in that second to last episode.
Just asking us to buy into that. See these people beat the shit out of an old woman is just like.
I didn't have a problem with the idea of it, but it's clunky in the just the filming, the cinematography, the editing. It just
feels strange because the cinematography in general, if we're talking about, is actually amazing.
Think about like how cool the transitions were.
Yeah, those are cool.
They were just like slides, and it would go from it would start with a slide and the color palette of Jessica Jones, and then it would move to a yellow Harlem.
Yeah, or just tracking shots in general, or like just certain transitions. There was one scene where I was like, what are we watching? A Rian Johnson movie? How like it went from a shot in a window to panning up, and like you're seeing over the street, and then it turns sideways. Like that stuff is really, really cool. Why can't like what Paul Greengrass worship are they doing in some of these fight scenes? Like they can only hope to be so good, right?
I was gonna say they're not even that good.
That's what I'm saying.
So anyway, that stuff bothers me, but overall I thought it was better. The only real issue I have is that Daredevil, for most of the season, Daredevil feels more powerful to me than Jessica Jones, despite not being enhanced. Like
he should be the least powerful.
I have still never really seen Jessica Jones' powers, and the very first scene with Jessica Jones.
Do you know she can fly?
Yeah,
but she can't because she's an alcoholic, and yeah.
Well, she flies in her own season, but she also flew away in the chase scene with her and Matt down the street. He's listening to her, and then her footsteps disappear, and then she ends up behind him because she flew.
It's like it's something she can't do. It's like Iron Fist's glowing hand.
It's like Charles Xavier in Days of Future Past. She inebriates herself to where it numbs her powers.
I never realized that the Iron Fist, his chi. What a shitty power! You can only use it once every it's like a video game. You have to wait till it charges up to use it.
Well, that's why it was so annoying in that first season. It's
I don't like that.
It just was never there in his season. It's
we're just constantly waiting. It's like we're just waiting for him for his hand to glow.
Yeah, but now the dogs are in here. But yeah, Jessica Jones, I still don't
He
really
wants to apologize
feel,
for how he was treating you earlier.
yeah, I still don't feel the weight of her powers. And that first scene with her in the show, when it's her saving Trish's car from being towed, you just see the car being pulled away, and then she just stands up, and it's like, okay, I could have filmed that in my backyard.
In fairness,
And that's essentially the extent of how this show handles her powers.
in fairness, Kristen Ritter, that's her name.
Yes.
I do buy her the least in terms of like fighting, and it's pretty obvious. Like I remember that the big shot season 3, or the big scene season 3, episode 3, coming out of that meeting room thing down that hallway, her throwing a punch, and I was like, ooh. So she's probably the least. She's the one I buy the least in terms of her fighting ability. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen it. I feel like if we get more of it, then we'll understand it more. But anyway, it was still fun to see all these people together.
100%. I agree.
And even though
I would watch season 2 in a heartbeat.
Stick was great too. He was a lot of fun to watch. Seeing everyone come together, and I thought that was fine too. The way that they kind of handled everyone's side characters, the way Trish would kind of come in and out, but they didn't spend a whole lot of time with her. We talked about Foggy and Karen, but they were kind of in and out. Misty Knight coming in, I thought that was great. Colleen coming in. The only person
developing their relationship, because they have a very big relationship in the comic books.
Yeah. The only, and I'm glad that they got a good amount of time with just Iron Fist and Luke Cage, because they're buddies in the comics. The only character that we got again that I didn't give a fuck about is the guy who trained Colleen in the hand from Iron Fist.
Yeah.
I don't give a
That guy
shit about
sucks.
that guy.
Yeah, we don't need you.
Yeah.
He was the only one that even fought too of them. I mean, they fought, but like we were also just supposed to buy them fighting.
Yeah. But anyway.
Okay, real quick, I want to address one other thing. I'm excited for this whole universe to move forward past the hand, to get new threats and whatnot and see what else looms. But I also hope that we do finally get more crossover. I talked about it with the DC shows, it being rewarding to see not just the crossover episodes, but just see like, Martian Manhunter appear in Supergirl is pretty fucking cool. But when we got it in Jessica Jones with Luke Cage, I remember coming home one day and Kayla was watching it and she was like, Jay, that's Luke Cage. And I was like, what? Like, that's so cool. I want to see them interacting more.
I don't mean this in a bad way. I don't want this to speak to Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. But I really think that moving forward, they should combine Luke and Iron Fist.
I agree. Their stories, I actually think his casting is great. I think their story would be much more
because it's
interesting.
Not only does it serve comic book fans, but it also alleviates what Iron Fist did. And if you're going to continue on this kind of loser joke of the group path, they would have a great buddy cop dynamic where Luke Cage can not take him seriously at all. And that would be our way in. So I hate to automatically do that to Mike Coulter with Luke Cage, but I think that makes sense. And it also works with the volume of shows that we're going to be getting.
Yeah.
Because they're adding Punisher, and it, some of this stuff,
all of the shows have been renewed for new seasons, right?
Right. But it kind of trims down the amount of seasons that we get. And Netflix, there's plenty of volume with Netflix series as it is, let alone the Marvel stuff. Right. So I just think that that's definitely a pro. But anyway,
I am curious to see. I mean, it's hard to figure out exactly what the time frame is with these Netflix shows in regards to everything else going on in the MCU. I mean, I know obviously it's because they only ever reference the Battle of New York, right?
The incident. They only reference that. They don't talk about the Hydra reveal. They don't talk about Sokovia. They don't.
I want to know what Kevin Feige thinks of the Marvel on Netflix stuff. Like, because I'm sure people ask him all the time, and I'm sure he rolls his eyes like, no, we're not going to get fucking Daredevil in a Spider-Man movie. But I'm also, I know we all want that, but I also am very curious what Infinity War, because we all know that it's supposed to have major implications on the MCU moving forward. I'm very curious as if, like, I think it would be very refreshing to just have a new idea moving forward with all Marvel stuff, like a life beyond this galactic threat.
So to answer your question, I don't think Kevin Feige gives a fuck about the Defenders.
I don't think so either.
And what
I do think the Punisher is interesting.
What I mean by that is Kevin Feige doesn't need those people he doesn't need to cater anything around involving those characters. He just doesn't. And I think if he could, he would, but because the planning of a television season is a whole lot different than the planning of a feature film, that I don't know if we're ever going to see these timelines align. And I guess
who has the most cinematic crossover appeal to you? Not just in the Defender. Let me ask you this: do you think Daredevil has cinematic crossover appeal? Not just like, oh, they would make a Daredevil movie. Could you see Charlie Cox in? Could you picture him in one of these movies?
It's tough, but I could see Charlie Cox showing up, change his costume, make it a higher quality costume. I can see him in a Captain America movie.
John Bernthal is the only person that I could see. I could see him easily in a Spider-Man movie.
I can see John Bernthal and I can see Charlie Cox doing both a Captain America movie or a Black Widow, Hawkeye-ish type movie.
Punisher and Black Widow would be a fucking great combo.
I can definitely see that.
I agree.
As far as the character being in Infinity War,
no,
doesn't sound right.
Right, they won't even let Nick Fury in the Infinity War movie.
Yeah,
what's that about?
I think it's kind of bullshit.
What the fuck?
I think that's bullshit.
Yeah,
you're already, and I know Sam L is probably, he's expensive, but you're already making arguably the most expensive movie of all time, and you're excluding the person, the glue that brings all of these characters together in the first place. I just think it's silly.
It's very strange. Just while we're on this subject and we're kind of nerding out right now, can I get an over under 60%? Do you think we see Captain Marvel in Avengers 1 or 2 at all?
Avengers 1 or 2?
I'm sorry.
What?
Infinity War 1 or 2?
I think she's 100% in at least the post-credit sequence.
Okay, no, I'm saying even prior to that.
In Infinity War?
100%. 100%. Do you think she's going to be in there?
I feel like something would have come out as far as like, I'm trying to think. They're already filming They're filming Avengers 4 right now.
Right.
They've already turned over and now they're starting with 4. So, with that being said, if Brie Larson was 100% going to be in Avengers 4, which I can't remember when Captain Marvel comes out, if it's between the two or after both. But if her movie...
Because we don't need her movie to be a part in order to be a part of this. If her movie,
I can't think of I can't think right now. But if she's going to be in Avengers 4, there's no reason why she isn't in Avengers 3. Because they're filming it all together.
Well,
so
my through line was the fact that, she's incredibly powerful, and the fact that if Thanos was to just wreak all fucking havoc in this upcoming one and then obviously make it to the last one, that she would have to be a part of the reason why he's defeated, because she's that powerful.
Right. I guess my point is, if they were planning on throwing in Captain Marvel in Avengers 4, there's no reason why she wouldn't have been in Avengers 3 as well, because they're filming it back to back. So there's a chance.
I was just curious.
Did we talk about everything?
Do you have a final grade?
I think I'm I'm good with the B plus.
Yeah, I'm good with a solid B on
Yeah.
this.
It was mostly fun, and I think people, they had their moments, but there were still things that I was just like, okay, whatever.
They pulled off the thing they needed to pull off. They needed
Yeah.
to make these 4 characters work well together. And I don't mean the characters themselves, but just on screen. I think they pulled that off tremendously.
Yeah.
And that's really all I needed them to do.
Mhm.
All the other stuff was just kind of like, we'll get it right next time.
So I think right now my rankings of the series would probably be Daredevil 2, Jessica Jones, Defenders, Daredevil 1, Luke Cage, Iron Fist.
Is Punisher, does that come out this year?
November or December. Yeah, it's in a couple months. Did you watch the trailer? Okay.
How awesome is it?
Oh, that's right. You told me that it was
Post-credit, yeah.
post credits. Yeah.
You know how I found out about it? You know who spoiled the fact that there was a post-credit thing?
Christian and Dennis.
Yes. But I'm actually glad that they did. You know why? Because if I would have never known about it. You know how Netflix does that thing? As soon as the credits come on, it just like takes your screen away?
Yeah, I had to turn my controller on and go back.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah.
But
So,
I'm excited, man. I'm excited about that. Really fucking excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, one last question. Does this show crack your top 5 shows of the year?
No.
Does it get in your top 10?
Yeah.
I think so. There's not enough to, there's no way in hell it cracks top 5.
No, there's not.
Yeah. This or, last question, this or Master of None?
Oh God.
Completely different shows,
They are different shows.
but you're going to have to put them up against each other.
Emotionally, Master of None.
I mean, execution-wise, but, right? I mean, might not be as fun of a show.
Like in filmmaking terms, Master of None.
Yeah.
But the child in me would say the Defenders.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get if somebody puts the new season of Master of None and the new season of Defenders 2 on the screen at the same time, I'm definitely watching Defenders 2.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Master of None gets a hard I'll watch it later.
Yeah.
So,
And the rewatchability of Master
Yeah,
of None
I mean-
isn't as there as, say, something like the Defenders,
I watched 6 of 8 episodes at work of the Defenders.
which is hilarious to me.
You know what? I was very productive that day too.
I think it's hilarious that I came home from work. I got home at like 6 and I just finished the Defenders by like 2 a.m.
You know what's funny though? I'm going to tell you a little secret. You actually finished it before I did. Because before I left to go to Lexington, I had 20 minutes left of the show.
So when I
watch.
said he made it out,
I
did I
knew that-
spoil it for you?
I knew that because I fast forwarded it. I kept skipping things. Yeah. I went back and finished it later. Last episode, not that great. It was fine.
I love Ben Affleck's Batman so much.
That's great.
The only person I will allow to replace Ben Affleck as Batman is Charlie Cox. In fact,
I hate this take.
the only people
Get out of here.
from here on out,
It's Kit Harington.
the only people that can play the Batman are people who have played Daredevil. And that
So stupid.
is my hot take. I'm out.
Kit Harington for Batman.
No.
He's too short. Where can they find you online?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell. I just put up a movies episode with Miss Movies herself, Brianne Chandler. She revealed her movie bucket list, so definitely go check that out. Also did an Atypical review, and I'll probably put up a Stardust for the Defenders. If you want to check that out, follow us on Stardust at Sight Sound Pod. If you have no idea what Stardust is, it's an app where your users can create reactions to your favorite movies and TV shows. So definitely hang out with us over there. And I'm in the Facebook group, which the link is in this description. We can talk about things like the Defenders right there. What about you, Jay?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jaye Williams, J to the A to the Y to the E. And you can find us on our YouTube channel. Did you plug that already? Okay, I wasn't paying attention to you. You can find us on our YouTube channel. I reviewed the brand new album. I also did a mid-season review of The Defenders. I don't know why you need to listen to that because we just talked about it for like 30 or 40 minutes. Yeah, you can find me on a bunch of places. My music show on Friday, every Friday, no matter what Christian Harloff says. I'm still going to be doing that music show on a Friday. We're having a good time over there. I don't think I have anything else. I forget. Oh, sightsoundpod.com. Go buy our shirts. You know what we didn't talk about at all?
Game of Thrones or HBO taking our shirts down.
Yeah. We'll talk about it on Game of Thrones. Fuck HBO. And fuck Kanye West merch company. We also didn't talk about there might be a new Taylor Swift album. All right, we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.